All right. What is going on, guys? MBG here. Back at it with another podcast here. Not sure why I'm starting off this podcast with that really weird cringe intro, but there are a few things I want to let you guys know. The first is, and I'm saying this right off the bat here, just so we're all aware. Actually, maybe I should mention this later as well. But for those of you who are here, thank you so much for being here so early. So this new microphone I have, hopefully it sounds good on your end. The wire, for some reason, the connection, excuse me, is pretty loose. So I noticed that the wire just tends to kind of pop off randomly, and I will just be talking into my mic and it's not even connected. So I want to let you know that if at any point I just cut off, just let me know in the chat. I'm sure I will see it and I will fix that. Hopefully that's not an issue though, as long as I don't, move the mic around. I got to look into that. I don't know why it's like that. I don't know if it's just the wire I bought or that I bought that it came with, if I need to buy a new wire. But yeah, just, be aware of that. We have a really good show, in my opinion. We have some really interesting topics that it seems like there is we're at this moment right now with PlayStation and Xbox where it's kind of like who's going to go first and when it comes to pricing, but we know that Microsoft still has a lot to show, so there's just going to be a lot of really interesting conversation happening over the course of this podcast. I do also want to let you know for my channel members, because I noticed that the exclusive content that I put out each month for my members, obviously I do this as a way to just give you guys a little something extra. When it comes to the live stream, the members only live stream that I do once a month, it seems that not many people are, getting notified of this stream. And I think this is YouTube's fault because they kind of have this thing going on where, it's in beta, the members only streams and whatnot. And I think because of that, it just seems like, I don't know, people are just not getting notified of when I'm doing these member only live streams, and only like 10 to 12 people show up, and there should be way more than that. And I don't know if it's just the timing of when I do them or if it's just on YouTube's end, but I'm thinking about maybe retiring that perk temporarily. And again, this is just something I'm thinking about. I'm not saying it definitively. I'm letting my members know, or anybody who's going to become a member. I may decide to maybe do a gameplay commentary video exclusively for my members, where I'm just going to play a random game. Maybe you guys can vote on the game. Could be an exclusive PlayStation game, could be something random, could be maybe even me playing with my friends or something like that. I don't know, just to put it out there for you guys because it's a different flavor of content. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's something I'm going to do or not. But when it comes to the MBG and Friends Gamecast, I will let all of my members who are listening to this live or those who listen afterwards, everyone vote for Bug Snacks. Yeah, maybe we could do a members only gameplay commentary of Bug Snacks. But I want to let you know, all my members, that is, that the next episode, or the second episode of MBG and Friends Game Club on The Last of Us Part 2, is available to all members. So all you have to do to find that content is you should just be able to go into the community tab, or if you are a member, it should actually show up in your feed. Again, there's very few views on this. I don't know if it's because it has to do with The Last of Us Part 2 and there's spoilers, and because of that, a lot of people are just either waiting for it or whatever. So, AJ, yes, you are from India. Please stop spamming, or I will have to, unfortunately, block you because I do not like spam in the chat. But yes, you are from India. So yeah, I just wanted to open this podcast up by letting you guys know, members that is, or those who are going to become members, that this content is available for consumption. So go check it out. And if I decide to update any of the member perks, I will obviously let you know. So we have over 500 people here already, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here so soon. If you could do me a big favor, make sure you hit that like button to help the stream out and help the podcast out. It's the easiest way for you to do that. But just to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be discussing during today's podcast. The first thing has to do with some apparently big PlayStation 5 news that is coming relatively soon. I did do a dedicated video on this, but I think it might be worth it might be worth it to kind of go back and talk about this once again. But on top of that, we're going over the idea of more events, like more PlayStation 5 related events. We know this is something that is going to be happening. There's been some speculation about what these events are going to be focused on, when they're going to happen. And so I just want to take some time to talk about that. I think it's going to be interesting to try to figure out and gauge, what is Sony's response going to be to this July event. I feel like this is basically going to be the theme for all of July, basically, for PlayStation 5 fans. Just wondering, what is Sony going to do? What are they going to say in response to Microsoft? And so we're going to discuss that. We are also going to be talking more about the Xbox July event. We seemingly talk about this each week, but this is the time. We're getting more and more information each week that goes by regarding this event. Apparently, the actual date has leaked out, some of the games that are going to be there, but we also have more info on the Xbox Series S console, or the Lockhart model. Some pretty significant information at that. It seems like we almost have all of the information. It's just a matter of waiting until Microsoft decides to announce this console and reveal it. And so another thing I want to take some time to talk about here is frame rate with these new consoles. And I feel like this is a discussion that's going to ramp up pretty significantly going into July, because I have this feeling that Microsoft is going to be focusing very heavily on frame rate when it comes to the Xbox Series X and their games. And I say that only because Phil Spencer kind of made it clear, in my opinion, that that's what they plan to do. And a lot of people are wondering, what can we honestly expect when it comes to frame rates? And I want to just once again have this conversation and let you know that, you can expect higher frame rates, but we have to understand that, unfortunately, and I know that this is a bitter pill for a lot of people to swallow, 60 FPS is just not the standard when it comes to console. And just because there's more horsepower, just because we have consoles that can easily do 4K 60, does not mean we are going to get 4K 60 for both Xbox and Sony. So I definitely want to take some time to talk about that. And finally, the last major topic we're going to be discussing has to do with PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility. There are more rumors swirling around about this, and there's more people talking about it. And so we're just going to have a general discussion about it once again. I don't know how long this podcast is going to be today. Every time I say that, it somehow still ends up being 2 to 2.5 hours long. So, yeah. Saying, hey, MBG, how you doing, bud? I was saying, no, MBG, no party. You are the party, the operator. Well, thank you so much for that, buddy. So once again, hit that like button, and we're going to kick this off. I am going to bring up the gameplay now, I'll also want to apologize for what you're seeing here when it comes to the footage in the background, the B-roll. I had to reuse what I used last week because I didn't really get much time to actually game and record footage. So I do apologize for that, but it is what it is. Hopefully next week I'll have something, even if it is just PUBG or whatever. But I do just want to let you know that I am aware of that. But we're going to kick it off with the first topic here. And so, big PlayStation 5 news is coming soon if recent rumors are to be believed. Apparently, Sony is set to reveal the price, release date, and pre-order information on July 13th. And if that date moves for some reason, then Sony will actually reveal this information sooner than July 13th. On top of that, Sony will also be talking about backwards compatibility, PS5 enhanced games as well, but we don't know when exactly that's going to be. It could be at the same time. It could be during a separate event. And so there are a lot of people who don't believe this rumor because it seems unlikely that Sony would actually reveal this information just a few weeks before Xbox's July event. Many also believe that Sony would want to show the PS5's features, UI, the teardown, all that stuff before revealing that information. And I've been thinking that if this information is true, then this tells me that Sony has internally decided to sell the digital edition of the PlayStation 5 for $400. Now, a few things that I'm adding to this that I didn't talk about in the video has to do with the idea of Sony actually having other events that are centered around, let's see, backwards compatibility, PlayStation 5 enhanced games, and we know that they're going to have to do something showing off the UI and features. We know that they're going to have some type of teardown, all this stuff that we know is coming. And I've seen well, first of all, before I get ahead of myself here, for those of you who are not aware, I think most of you are, but where this rumor stems from is an individual on Twitter, Roberto Serrano, I think his name is, and he actually correctly predicted or not predicted, but he leaked out the PlayStation 5 reveal event date a day or two before it was officially announced, and it was seemingly like he knew that it was going to be on the 11th because we knew the date was moving around like seemingly every day, but he somehow knew, unless he just got really, really lucky, but it didn't come off that way. He knew that Sony's first proper next gen event was going to be on the 11th, seemingly a day or two before anybody else either knew it or was willing to share that information. And so what this tells me is that he may have some kind of source. Again, I don't know how proven his track record is, but I know for a fact that he did get that one correct. So, I'm willing to not believe it fully 100%, but I'm willing to look at the fact that he got that correct and say, okay, maybe there's a pretty decent chance that he is correct about this information. But I will admit, this one is a little bit tougher to believe because we have to imagine that Sony, look, and I want to ask the chat this, why would Sony reveal this information 2 weeks before Microsoft is seemingly going to reveal the price of the Xbox Series X? My only conclusion, the only logical answer that I can come up with in my head is that the only reason Sony would do that and be willing to come out ahead of Microsoft and reveal the price, the release date is going to be significant as well because there's a good chance that, the PS5 could come out after the Xbox Series X. I don't think that will be a big deal if it does, it'll probably be within just a week or two. But the big thing here is the price point. Would Sony actually be willing to reveal the price point? We have a new member here, Christ Illusion. Thank you so much, buddy, for choosing to go above and beyond here and support me directly. Look forward to your exclusive member perks, and I do genuinely appreciate your support. So thank you so much for that, buddy. But the idea of Sony revealing the price before Microsoft after they've been playing seemingly this long game of chicken that's still going on, the only reason I feel like that would happen, as I've said, is if Sony internally decided that they are going to sell one of these consoles, that being the digital edition, because it just makes the most sense, at $400. At that point, I feel like Sony would feel confident enough that they don't need to wait for Microsoft. And at this point, Sony is well aware that the Xbox Series S console exists. We're all aware of it. We're even getting spec leaks. So we know that this console is going to be the cheapest next-gen console on the market at $300 or $350. So with Sony knowing this, they probably just decided, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sell this digital console at $400, and we're just going to come out here ahead of Microsoft and get people hyped and get our pre-orders in and stuff like that. So it's one of these things that it's difficult for a lot of people to believe for many different reasons, and I understand that, and I'm kind of in agreement with a lot of people where it's like, I don't know if this really makes a lot of sense that Sony would do this. We have to understand, as far as I remember, and chat, please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but as far as I remember, Sony usually would reveal the price of the console at E3. So if this was a traditional year where Sony was at E3, they would have already revealed the price by now, but again, I guess so would have Microsoft. I could be wrong on that, but Oyakarumi, you're saying because their awesomeness, and that's the truth. Yeah, can't argue with that, man. But Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying the GF is not happy I left the Gucci for this podcast. She could never understand. Well, hey, man, I'm not going to necessarily speak to that. All I'm going to say is I do appreciate you taking the time to come check out the podcast live. Really does mean a lot. And Sir speaks a lot. That's all I'm going to say about that, buddy. But yeah, I got to tell you guys, like, I just look, the number one thing I've seen people say, like they're saying, look, this is why Sony is not going to reveal this information on the 13th. The reason being is they didn't show off the UI yet. They didn't show off the features. They didn't show off the console teardown. They didn't do all this stuff that we know they're going to do. And so for a lot of people, that automatically makes it so that there's no way they're going to reveal this information. But I don't necessarily agree with that because there's no written down rule that says if you you know if you want to reveal the price of the console, you have to reveal this information first. There's been plenty of times, as far as I remember, that these features, these things have not been revealed or shown off until we afterwards, like until we already knew the console's price and stuff like that. So I don't know if I agree with that, but the big question here, putting the price aside, because we're going to have to learn the price of these consoles. It's literally just a matter of time here. It's going to be a matter of probably a couple weeks at this point. I mean, the idea of Microsoft and Sony pushing back the reveal of the pricing of these consoles into, I don't know, like August, that just seems like it's pushing it way too far. But these other events that Sony has planned, right? Like we've been hearing for a while now that Sony has an event dedicated to backwards compatibility and UI features and all this stuff. I do think that, yeah, that's obviously something that's going to have to happen. When it comes to the backwards compatibility, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but we don't know how extensive that's going to be, other than the fact we know that they have to talk more about it before this console comes out, because they barely talked about it at all. I just don't see them not talking about it at all, even if it is just PS4 backwards compatibility. But another thing that this Roberto guy on Twitter is saying is that these are other events that Sony is also going to have. Obviously, they could change. And what's interesting about this specific July 13th announcement is he was saying that this is not an event. When Sony announces the price, release date, and stuff, it's not going to be an event. It's going to come in the form of like a blog post or something along those lines. And I got to tell you that one other reason I do believe this, and it makes sense, is that it would make sense for Sony to want to reveal this information in between the big hype-inducing announcements rather than saving it for the last final announcement, right? Because that would be like bursting a bubble in a way. Chris B is saying Sony would have to be confident they hit a competitive price point. Maybe Series S leaks convince them Xbox isn't a threat. Yeah, to speak to that for a second, man, that's what I've been saying. I think that Sony would have to have enough confidence to where they're like, okay, we're not going to be able to match the price point of the Series S, but we maybe also don't feel that the Series S is even a threat. So we can come in at a really competitive price point at $400 with the digital edition. So yeah, we're going to announce this information and get people hyped about that. Because I'm telling you, if Sony can come in at a $400 price point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Xbox decides to do. They could have a $200 Series S model. That $400 PS5 for what it's offering, exclusive games and all, brand recognition here, that's going to be a huge, huge win for Sony if they can achieve that. Nathan Drake 123 are saying, have you heard the rumors of Sony acquiring SNK parent company studios? I'm assuming those are the same studios that we just talked about in one of my latest videos, where they're going to acquire like the studio that makes Warframe, as well as Certain Affinity and those types of studios. The studio that made Gears Tactics. If that's what you're talking about, I have heard that, and apparently those are a little bit more than just rumors. It seems like there's actual like reporting on this that's saying like this is a thing that's actually in talks right now behind the scenes, and it's going to be something that actually comes to fruition. Although whether or not Sony is the company that ends up with these studios, that's something we don't know yet, but apparently Sony is in talks. So, but yeah, I have this feeling that if this rumor is true, if it's true that Sony's going to be coming out here on July 13th and just dropping this info, again, another reason I do believe this, and I want to put emphasis on this because I don't think a lot of people are thinking of it in this way. you have to imagine if you're Sony, what's the best way to keep the hype going into, the launch of their next generation console? Well, you have to start off with the big reveal event, which we already got on June 11th. You show off the console, you show off, most importantly, a bunch of exclusive games that you're going to get with this console, right? That's the way you kick it off. Mr. Hamster saying, my colleagues used to have tea during break time in the office. Nowadays, we gather together and draw MVG fan art. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. I do like your fan art, Mr. Hamster. I've seen some of the stuff that you've been posting on Twitter with The Last of Us 2, and more recently, the one I liked the most was Ghost of Tsushima, where it's samurai time. I do appreciate that, so keep it up, man. I do like it. But and thank you for the super chat as well. But that's how Sony kicks it off, right? They kick it off with a big, spectacular reveal event with a lot of games, and a lot of the games they showed off looked awesome. The best part about this event, in my opinion, is you can certainly tell that Sony was holding a significant amount of content back. I mean, there's a lot of studios that we haven't seen anything about or heard anything from when it comes to their next gen plans, but the games we saw seemingly are all going to be releasing within the first year of the PS5 being out. So that's what you do. You show off the games, you show off the box. The second thing, well, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying, can the fan art be the only fans' feet pics? No, Sir Speaks a Lot. I know you're going to continue to die on this hill, but it's just never going to happen, man. It's never going to happen. I mean, could a face reveal happen in the future? Of course. Could maybe even like my little setup here, could that be revealed in the future? Of course, but feet reveal, man, you're just going to be waiting on that forever. Wait, it's never going to happen, bro. But sorry about that. Excuse me. But the second thing that Sony would want to do, and this is where I have to tell you, like, this makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me that Sony would decide, look, would it be more intelligent when it comes to trying to build up hype and excitement for their launch to reveal something like the price? Like, if it is going to be an expensive price point, which let's say $500, I mean, to me, that's not really that expensive. Like, for what you're getting, I think it's totally worth that amount of money. But the point is, it's still $500. There's a lot of people who are going to look at that and say, they're going to have to evaluate, like, can I afford to buy this console at launch or around launch? Do you decide to reveal this information last? I don't think you do, because, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you decide to reveal it last, you could argue, well, if you've said everything you have to say about this console, if you've shown off every big reveal, then you have the most amount of hype surrounding it. So that way, when you reveal the price, it's not going to be as shocking to people. But the other side of that is, if you decide to reveal it like now, in the middle of their hype cycle, get it out of the way. You showed people the games, you showed them the box, so they're hyped. Show them the price. Maybe for some people, the price is a little bit disappointing. For a lot of people, I don't think it will be, though. Get that out of the way. Let people know that they can pre-order it now, and give them the release date so they know when they can, look forward to playing their console. Obviously, sometime most likely in November. And then, now that you've gotten that out of the way, you have all these months ahead of you, August, September, and October, to use that to just focus on continuing to build the hype to where you're going to make people forget about the price point, I mean, maybe not forget about it, but, it's just you don't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you rip that Band-Aid off, and it hurts for a second and it stings for a second, but then you move on. I think maybe that's another reason why I kind of believe that Sony would want to choose to do it this way. Straight from VA1, you're saying, maybe it's just me, but I do not believe Xbox will have anything that will blow us away at their event, nor will it make PlayStation loyalists switch to Xbox. Yeah, I have to agree with that last statement there. I mean, when it comes to whether or not Xbox is going to have anything that's going to blow us away, that's a tough one to answer because it's kind of subjective. I mean, like something like a new Fable, a reboot that's AAA and has photorealistic graphics and great gameplay. One person may love that. Another person might be like, okay, that's cool, but I'm not really interested in Fable. You know what I mean? Same thing with the idea of a reboot of Perfect Dark. If that's a thing that the initiative is working on, it's subjective. To me, something that becomes a little bit, I mean, it's still just as objective, but or subjective, but I think maybe you could make it a little bit more objective by saying, I think something that everybody would be excited to see is a brand new IP. I feel like you just can't go wrong. I mean, even if the new IP you see isn't really for you, it's not your cup of tea, you can at least give Microsoft the credit. Oh, look, it's a new IP, right? But I don't know. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk more about the Xbox event when we get to the second topic, because the second topic here is all about that. But sticking with, Sony's future events, would it make sense for Sony to, I don't know what that is outside my house right now, but God, it's loud and absurd. I apologize if that was picked up on the mic. That was really loud. That bothered me. But keep getting distracted, man. Sticking to PlayStation's events, like, would it make sense for PlayStation to not talk about anything next gen related in July? Absolutely not. That would make no sense whatsoever. I mean, I understand that July is supposed to be it is going to be Xbox's month, but does that mean it's Deacon St. John outside again? Yeah, that was a different sound. I don't know what that was. I don't even know if that was a motorcycle, but would Sony be willing to not talk about anything next gen related in July and just give Xbox all that space? No, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like Sony at all. I mean, Microsoft seemingly did that for Sony in June, where they just like backed off and didn't really talk about much of anything in a significant way. At least that's how it came off to me. Christopher, you're saying, I hope Sony reveals a new Jack and Daxter. I don't know, man. It seems like it's unlikely that they're going to reveal something like that. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it does seem highly unlikely. But we'll see. Maybe they'll do something with that IP in the future. But I don't know, man. I just don't see Sony remaining silent in July. And so it begs the question, well, what would Sony be willing to reveal in July? Would it make more sense that on July 13th, that they were going to announce something? Maybe they announce the PlayStation 5 teardown. Yeah, I could see that. What about, them deciding they're going to talk about the UI? I could see that as well. But again, I just feel like Sony would want to save these bigger reveals and announcements. Like, the big question is, does Sony have more games to reveal before the PS5 launches? I think they do. I really do. How many games? I don't know. I know it's not going to be all the games because they have to save some stuff, and some stuff just probably isn't ready to show in general. But I do think that they have more games, and I think that's the kind of stuff that they want to pair. Like, if they have one or two more big game announcements, they're going to want to pair that alongside that. Now we're going to show you the UI and some new features as well. Now we're going to talk about backwards compatibility. In my opinion, it makes more sense to clump that stuff together than to say, okay, we're going to reveal a new game, but then talk about the price. Like, I just feel like that doesn't make much sense. Oyakarumi, you're saying, how long do you think Sony can keep this up being the alpha male? I think is basically, it sounds to me what you're asking here is, how long can Sony continue to be dominant in this console gaming space with the games and everything? I think as long as they continue to do what they've done best and double down on that, which it seems like they are doing that going into next generation with your single player experiences, your high quality AAA exclusives, making sure that the narrative isn't focused around just power and T-flops and backwards compatibility. No offense to Microsoft, and I know I sound like I'm taking shots here, but the truth of the matter is, like, all the things that Microsoft has been focused on up until this point, I have to emphasize that because that's probably going to change with this July event. All the things that Microsoft has been focused on are seemingly things that, like, yeah, they matter, but they're not like the reason. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, backwards compatibility is not the reason that 99% of people go out there and buy your next gen console. Power is important, but T-flop count is not the reason. The truth is, guys, it only comes down to one thing and one thing only at the end of the day, and that's the games. Of course, the price point is also very important, but the games, in my opinion, and I could be wrong about this, maybe this is just, my ignorance based off of my position, just being a hardcore gamer myself. To me, price is not the be all end all. In my opinion, games outweigh the price point. I feel like if you show games that are good enough, people will pay any price to get access to those games. But then again, Microsoft has Game Pass, so I don't really think they care about price point either. Sonny, you're saying with the PS5 having less restraints while being easier to code for, chances are that Sony studios could increase their output of games. Yeah, that's a really interesting point you do bring up there, Sony, and something we haven't really talked about as much, honestly. It has to do with the frequency at which Sony's studios can produce these high quality games. And you do bring up a really good point that it seems like Sony has made it absolutely just seamless for developers to make their games on this console. And there's a lot of tools at their disposal that they can choose to implement and take advantage of if they want. It's a choice, it's not a mandate. It's stuff that's there that, hey, like if you want to use this for your game and if this can benefit your game, go for it. If not, then one thing that seems to be very clear to me is that Sony has made it just absolutely seamless and easy as it can be for developers to just get their game up and running on the PS5. I mean, this is something that we've heard not just Epic Games, but many other developers speak to where it's just like, wow, this is incredibly easy. It's the most developer friendly console they've ever worked for or developed for. And I know that Xbox's console, the Series X, is also very developer friendly. But the truth of the matter is, guys, if you had to look at, each side here, like what have developers been talking about more? How developer friendly the Xbox is or how developer friendly the PS5 is? Seems like we've been hearing a lot more about the PS5 than the Xbox. Although we have heard some things about the Xbox, but that will most likely lead to games that are developed quicker, not like rushed out, but just that the development is more seamless. It's easier and it's less time consuming. And so that's going to lead to not only them being able to pump up their games more and make them look better, add more features, dedicate more time to just making the game itself better as a game as a whole, but it's going to lead to more games being developed more frequently, which is a great thing. So you do bring up a good point there. Christopher, you're saying most likely if they do reveal the price and release date on July 13th, it will just be a blog post and no games will be shown until August. Yeah, I agree 100%. Seems very unlikely that there would be an entire event dedicated to just those three pieces of information. They are critical. Excuse me. Sorry. They are critical pieces of information, but not information that needs to have a dedicated event. Again, it seems like Sony just kind of wants to low key get this info out there because they have to, and then let people know. And maybe Sony will tease like, but stay tuned for August where we have a lot more to reveal and show. Because trust me, I'm telling you, Sony has a lot more to show, just like Microsoft does. But I think it's gonna be pretty significant. We have Andrew. You're saying, do you think Sony will announce any more studio acquisitions besides maybe the 5 to 6 studios bundled with Liu Technologies deal if they acquire them? That's a tough one to answer. I want to say maybe, but I think it's kind of unlikely. I mean, it seems like Sony is very particular about the studios that they want to acquire. We know that Sony is not known for just coming out here and being like, oh, look at these studios we announced here. And then 6 months later, oh, we also acquired these studios. But it does seem like they are just like Microsoft. For them, they're beginning to realize that content has always been king, but more so than ever before going into the future, it's going to absolutely be king. Content is going to be the only differentiating factor between what you are offering against your competition in the long term. And so I think it's likely that Sony, is always looking for studios, but it seems like they're very specific and particular about the studios that they feel are really going to benefit them. Like Sony doesn't seem like the type of company to me that's just going to buy a studio because they can be bought. It seems like they're really going to evaluate and I think Microsoft does as well. But I guess I'm just trying to say that it seems like Microsoft's ambitions and Sony's ambitions are a little bit different when it comes to the type of studios that they would like to bring on board. And so is it possible? Of course it is. I mean, could we see Sony acquire another AAA studio? I mean, to me, look, you look at a studio like Housemarque with their upcoming game Returnal, which is like their first AAA foray. If that game does well, I could certainly see Sony being like, we need to buy these guys. Like they've proven that they can make like these bigger games as well as these smaller games, and they'd be a huge benefit. I mean, I think they should acquire them now already, but maybe they're just waiting to see like, hey, if this game does good. Same thing with Blue Point Games. I could easily see Sony acquiring either of these studios in the future. So Sir speaks a lot once again. You're saying maybe the compliments the publishers are making towards maybe the compliments the publishers are making towards the PS5 would make for more exclusives from them. Just seems like they are more open to it. Yeah, that's another important thing as well. Is like that's something that Sony can flex, and they can flex it over Microsoft when it comes to developers. Is like, look, we have the market share, we have the lion's share of the market, and that's probably going to continue into next generation. And we can cut you a deal. And one thing you can probably rest assured of is that if you choose to make your game exclusive with PlayStation, considering how widely recognized our brand is, how many millions and billions of units of games they sell, just the fact that it's associated with PlayStation, that's something that they can flex. And I do agree that, this is probably another reason why developers are just more attracted to the PlayStation 5, even though it's the less powerful console, right? It's just because, like, that brand recognition, man. There's something to be said for that. Lars, you're saying buy both the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Problem solved. You get the best of both worlds. Yeah, I can't argue with that. It's pretty simple logic. If you want to make sure that you can have access to all these games, then you're going to want to make sure you buy both. I mean, the truth is, guys, like, I am not sold yet. I see somebody saying don't miss the donation comment. Yeah, hopefully I haven't missed any super chats. I don't think I have. But I'll go back and check if I have to make sure I didn't. But that's the thing, man, is like Microsoft hasn't sold me yet on the Xbox Series X console. And the reason being is because I own an Xbox One X. And I've said this many times before, but I will continue to say is that as long as I know that their games are cross-gen, I just, as somebody who's investing in the PlayStation 5, as well as all of the accessories and peripherals, and most likely all of the games that are launching day one, the PS5 is where I'm going to be playing, man. And I won't lie, I won't deny that. That does not mean that I don't want to play some of Microsoft's games, because I certainly do. I will be there day one for Hellblade 2, most likely the next Forza Horizon game. And hopefully, when I see more of these games that they're going to announce in July, which again we'll talk about as we move on to the second topic here, hopefully I feel even more, excited about the stuff that Xbox has. I talk about it on a damn near weekly basis. If they announce a AAA State of Decay 3, man, it could be cross-gen. I would probably buy a Series X for that game, because that sounds awesome to me. Games like Hellblade and stuff, or not Hellblade, games like Halo, Gears, they're not that appealing to me. Forza Horizon I love, but I mean, right now Sony has me locked in, man. Like, I just recently bought a new desk and I'm actually using it. It's really nice. I decided to upgrade my setup here a little bit, give me more room since I podcast and I, record a lot. And I think this is also going to be maybe like my gaming space now too. Potentially, I might invest in like a really large TV-like monitor maybe. And I'm just saying this stuff because I'm like getting prepared for the next generation, man. Where like I'm gonna have my PS5 set up here. I'm gonna, have my. I noticed that Funko Pop is actually releasing a Bloodborne Pop figure, Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, and I noticed they released some Last of Us figures. I'm gonna buy those pops, have them set up. I'm all in on PlayStation, man, and like I'm just genuinely very excited about what they're doing and the games I've seen. Like, I know that when we look at this PlayStation Games event that happened, not every single game that was shown off is a game that I'm looking forward to. What I can say is that there are a lot of games that were shown off that spoke to me. Games like the Demon's Souls remake, games like Horizon, games even like Gran Turismo, I'm willing to give it a shot, but Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Like, I think people are not really fully aware of just how much exclusive content Sony showed off that you're only going to get on the PS5. And so all I can think about, and that game, Project Athea, or Athea, however you pronounce it. That's another one I forgot to mention because there's just so much. Even a game like Godfall, I know that that's not like, at the top of the list for everybody, but still, exclusive PlayStation 5 content. David, you're saying also pre-ordered the Ellie Funko Pop. Yeah, man. Go check out these pop figures if you're a PlayStation fan. I think they're coming out in August, if I'm not mistaken. But, the truth is, like, I'm just much more excited for PlayStation, man. And it's not just because I have a channel that's PlayStation focused, it's genuinely because, like, as a gamer, like, in my opinion, they have the most exciting stuff going on. They easily do. And just knowing that we only got to see the stuff that's coming out within the first year, we haven't seen Sony Santa Monica's project. We don't know what this secret project is, that AAA project that Sony San Diego is working on. We don't know what Sony Japan's working on, Silent Hill. We don't know what Naughty Dog's next project is going to be. We don't know what else Insomniac Games may have in the pipeline, because they're a massive, massive studio with multiple projects in the works. We just don't know these things, you know? And so there's just a lot that we still have left to learn about. And it's already looking really good. Sonny, you're saying, my guess is Xbox as a console is further crippled by Play Anywhere because it prevents it from having actual unique selling points or system sellers. Yeah, and I do agree with that, man. I don't think you can argue with that. But the thing here with that statement is, it's a question of, does Microsoft care? Does Microsoft care that they may not have any true system sellers? They do not. And that's the inherent huge major difference between Sony and Microsoft going into next gen. Is Phil Spencer literally said this year, they're not focused on console sales. Like, if this is the year where you can't, the family can't buy a new Xbox console, no big deal. And that's fine. Like, that's an understandable statement, especially given, the economic situation we're currently in. But at the same time, it's like, that does not sound like somebody to me, or a company to me, that is really looking to try to sell millions of consoles within the first year or two. So yeah, just to finish off this topic, I want to ask these questions because we're going to move on to the second topic here. The first question I want to ask you guys in the chat, JD Bear saying, MBG, somehow I was unbelled from your channel. Almost missed the stream. Yeah, dude, I don't know what's going on with that. I guess I'll just use this as a quick reminder to let everybody know, if you have hit the bell icon, or even if you haven't, double check and make sure you do hit that if you want to be notified anytime I go live or anytime a new video is available. YouTube has been pretty weird lately. It seems like there's always stuff going on the back end that's messing with people's settings. So, double check that for sure. Oyakarumi, thank you so much for this generous donation, buddy. Appreciate all the super chats, but especially those of you that, donate a little bit more. I know it's a big thing here. So thank you so much for that, buddy. You're saying, hear me out on this. I think that PlayStation should take a year off and let Xbox take over, considering the fact that they said they are the superior console, right? This would be their chance to prove it. Well, I understand what you're saying there. Do we realistically ever imagine Sony taking their foot off the gas and just saying, okay, Microsoft, the stage is yours? Maybe you're talking, PlayStation will never take a year off, I'll tell you that. But maybe they could let Microsoft have all of July to themselves and see how big of a difference that makes, how big of an impact that makes. And you might find that it could make a big impact, or maybe not. Regardless of whether or not Sony takes their foot off the gas, though, Oyakarumi, I can tell you this. They need to make a big splash this month, and we're going to talk about that in the upcoming topic. So it's an interesting question to bring up, though. Like, if Sony were to take a year off and just give the entire playing field to Microsoft, would Microsoft be able to win everybody over or win a bunch of people back? I don't know. That's a question, frankly, I can't answer, but interesting nonetheless, buddy. Thank you so much for that. We have straight from VA1. Once again, Sony showed 26 games during their event, and 22 of them are at least console exclusive. Yeah, that's a really big thing that I actually haven't really put any focus on, that we should pay attention to, is that 26 games is a lot. 22 of them are, maybe not full exclusives. I think maybe like 12 or 13 are, but 22 of them are console exclusive. And that's very impressive that Sony was able to pull that off, where basically they're saying, like, look, almost every single, like 80 to 85% of these games, if not more, are going to be locked to the PlayStation 5 console. So for anybody who's interested in the PS5, you're getting your money's worth. So that's a really good point you bring up there, buddy. We also have Pro Skills X. You're saying play The Last Guardian, Infamous 2 on PlayStation Now. Yeah, maybe I'll consider that. The truth is, guys, I've been so busy lately. Like, I haven't had nearly as much time to game as I've wanted. And at this point, I'm just trying to make sure that I can have enough time to play Ghost of Tsushima, which I have to rant for a second. Let me get to this. other super chat before I rant. Zach, you're saying, what's your thoughts on next gen games being more expensive? Um, to me, it's not all that surprising, but I feel like what's going to suck about it is that there's going to be these publishers, like 2K or Take Two with 2K and probably Madden and stuff. I don't know if Madden's going to be more expensive, but there's going to be these publishers. Christopher, you're saying I skipped your super chat. Let me double check that while I answer this question. Um, I got the super chats up here, so I will. Oh, okay. You said Deathloop and Ghostwire are PS4 exclusives too. Yeah. Sorry I missed that, buddy. Sometimes these $2 donations, for some reason, they slip by really quick because they don't, pop up right on the top. But yeah, it's worth noting that these were, I think, pretty significant third-party games that were also PS5 exclusives. So there you go. I was able to get to that. But when it comes to next-gen games being more expensive, the thing, in my opinion, that really sucks about it is that there's going to be these publishers that are like, oh yeah, we're gonna up the cost of a PS5 and Xbox Series X game, even though it's like there's no justifiable reason to do that, even though that the game is maybe not, the quality isn't that high, right? Or again, talking about the sports games, it's like, really, you're gonna tell me a sports game, of all the games that could go up to $70, you're going to tell me that's the game that's going to be 70? That's just BS in my opinion. But, high quality games like these massive AAA games, like just, GTA 6, if that wants to be $70, go ahead. The next Red Dead, a lot of Sony's exclusives, the big ones, even Microsoft, if they have big enough games, and third parties, like if they're big enough to justify it, if there's enough content there, and most importantly, if the quality is high enough, then I'm totally okay with that. But I just wanted to go on this little rant here, and it's probably going to sound like I don't know. I'm not going to rant. All I'm going to say is I've been asked a couple times by some people, like if if I'm currently playing Ghost of Tsushima, if I got a review copy, and I'm going to let you guys know I don't. And I literally tried everything I could possibly do, everything in my power to get a review code for Ghost of Tsushima, because this is a game I'm genuinely very, very excited for. And I mean, you look at the nature of my channel, it's a PlayStation centric channel. I guess I just feel like if there was any channel that maybe, where this game is relevant, to get a review out early or the day the embargo lifts, it would be this channel. But, it is what it is. I don't know why Sony doesn't answer me. I don't know if I'm blacklisted or whatnot. It's totally okay if I am. It's not a big deal. I plan on, buying this game with my own money anyway. Again, I have no problem supporting quality. I guess the only thing that's a little bit weird to me is I see other individuals like getting these codes somehow. And I don't know if it's just because they have the right contacts or whatnot, where, you know, it is what it is, where I just have to question, like, how are these individuals getting codes but I can't get a code for Ghost of Tsushima? It just seems a little bit weird to me, that's all. And again, it's Sony's choice, or whoever I'm talking to. It is what it is. It just, the thing that's a little bit disappointing to me is that I wish I could be able to offer my audience that, considering we are a PlayStation centric channel, at the very least, like, hey, here's my review of Ghost of Tsushima the day the embargo lifts, but maybe it's better it's not like that. Christopher, you're saying Sony blacklisted you for talking bad about The Last of Us 2. I would say that. Sure, that makes a lot of sense, but Sony wouldn't answer me even before that. So I don't know if I've been blacklisted since day one because I was an Xbox channel or whatever. I don't know if it's something I did or said in the past, but, it is what it is. If I'm blacklisted, I'm blacklisted. The only thing is, yeah, some people got Ghost of Tsushima and they have like 2,000 subscribers. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. I don't know if it's just a matter of contacts, but I'm going to assume at this point that I'm blacklisted by Sony, so I don't think I'll ever be able to get you guys like an early or like, a review copy or a review video, I should say, the day the embargo lifts. It's not that big of a deal to me, but it does. I would be lying if I said it isn't a little bit upsetting when I see people asking, and, they're going to want to, what makes it worse is you see people bragging about it where they're like, oh, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima now. I have my review up and I can confirm I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. I'm like, maybe it's just made worse by the fact that I'm like dying to play this game. But yeah, it is what it is. I'll be there day one and I'll give you guys my honest thoughts and review of the game, obviously. But hey, it is what it is. But we are going to move on to the second topic of the podcast today, and that's going to be about the Xbox event because we do have some new stuff. Let me see here. So the Xbox event reveal date leaked, and it will apparently, as of right now, be held on July 23rd, which I believe is I believe that's a Thursday. I see people asking like, who am I contacting about the codes? I mean, I've emailed like Microsoft, or not Microsoft. Oh, I've emailed Microsoft's PR people. Maybe that's why I'm not getting codes for Sony exclusives. No, I've emailed like a few Sony people that would, be able to hook me up. I've tried talking to like some developers and stuff, and they can't really do much. They're just developers. It's up to the PR people, but it is what it is. The reason why I feel like it's not necessarily a blacklisting thing is because I've seen other content creators. I apologize for going on about this. We're going to move on to the second topic, but I've seen other content creators like pretty much say and do the same things that I have, but they still get like their hands on review codes, and so it's just confusing. Like, I would just really appreciate it if somebody could just let me know, like, bro, look, you're blacklisted. Like, if somebody can send me just like, look, like, we're not going to give you it. Okay. Like, we don't like what you say or how you conduct yourself or whatever. It would, at that point, it would just at least make me be like, okay, well, at least now I know I can stop asking because I have an answer. It's just like, it's up in the air and I don't know what to think. Like, should I keep trying? Should I keep reaching out? Do I just look like an idiot because they're all laughing behind the scenes? Because it's like, look at this guy trying to get a review code thinking he's ever going to get one. It's just like, I don't know what to think. So that's all it really comes down to, I guess. But Chris, you're saying, thanks for these podcasts. Really love them. Thanks for putting Cloud on the video border as well. Yeah, you're welcome. That's a game I have to play, man. I really do appreciate the feedback. I'm glad you enjoy the weekly podcast. I've been trying to do my absolute best to make sure that I have this show on a weekly basis and I don't skip it. There are definitely some weeks where it's a little bit tougher because there's not as much to talk about, but luckily I have you guys here in the chat to help it, help keep the content and the conversation flowing. And yeah, I got Cloud on here. I do have a few different banners. I'm thinking maybe in the future I'm going to update some of these Press X podcast banners and layouts with some more maybe like PlayStation 5 characters later on. So thank you so much for that, Chris. Really do appreciate it. But that's enough ranting about me not getting review codes. I don't know. It is what it is. We'll see in the future if that ever changes. But I'll be in the weeds with you guys. I'm in the same boat as you guys. So this is where I plan to stay for now. So anyway, moving on to the second topic here because I spent basically an hour on the first topic. The Xbox reveal date has leaked. It's going to be held July 23rd. It seems like Microsoft is going to be putting a big emphasis on Halo Infinite since it's the big launch title, but we will see a new game from Double Fine, and we will also see the Initiative's new AAA title, or quadruple A title as they've called it. We're also getting a bunch of information on the Xbox Series S leaking out seemingly each day. Apparently, the Xbox Series X dev kit has a special Lockhart profile that is being used to currently test games. This profile suggests that the Xbox Series S will feature 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM, a CPU that will be clocked the same as the Xbox Series X, with around 4 teraflops of overall performance. That's, RDNA 2 performance, I believe. The Series S will also have 20 compute units and will mostly target 1080p 60 frames per second or 1440p at 30 frames per second gaming, but will also support ray tracing. And finally, it seems like there is an SSD inside. So a lot of information is leaked out about the Lockhart console. Sarah Speaks a Lot, you're saying, hey, MBG, thanks for letting you take your mom to the hospital, I guess. PS, you should give him a review code. He's a great guy. Well, thank you for that, buddy. It's all good if I don't ever get review codes, man. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, clearly it's the only thing that truly bothers me about it is when I see everybody bragging about it at once. It just really makes me feel left out. But hey, it's really not that big of a deal, man. It's a game that I'm passionate about and looking forward to playing. And the truth is, even if I got review codes, I'd still pay $60 for these games because I want to support them, and it makes me feel good to support the developers. But thanks for that, sir. Speaks a lot. Um, but yeah, talking about this Xbox event as well as the Lockhart. First of all, let's start with the event. When it comes to the event, there's not much more I can say about it that I haven't already said, mainly because it seems like we already have a really good idea and understanding of what exactly Microsoft is planning here. And it seems to me that a big focus on this event is going to be on Halo. And I think that's totally fine. I think that makes sense. I think considering it's a big AAA launch title for them, it should. It's only fair that like this is the game you're going to get first. We need to put the most focus on it. But the big question for me is all of the other games. Now we're hearing apparently Double Fine is going to announce a new game. I said this already, like I'm not the biggest fan of them, so I'm not really too excited about that. I want to know like what Compulsion Games is working on. If you know what they're, I know they're not a big AAA team, but what are they working on? What is Undead Labs working on? I want to know what these other teams are working on. I will tell you, and I've said this before, and I will say it again. Look, if Microsoft comes out here with this event and they don't have like at least one new AAA IP, I'm going to be a little bit upset. However, I won't be as upset if what they show off from Playground Games looks good with Fable. The Initiative, what is the Initiative working on? If there's any studio that I would love to see a new IP from, it would be the Initiative, but it's seeming more likely with all of these rumors that the Initiative is working on a Perfect Dark reboot. So that is what it is. But the thing I'm more interested in talking about here with this event, even though, I mean, maybe it doesn't necessarily fall in line with this event, is the Lockhart Series S model. It seems like Microsoft is not planning on revealing this console at this July event. It seems like they're going to reveal it in August. So we could see a situation where Sony comes out in like a week from now. They reveal the price of the PS5, the release date, and pre-order information. Then Microsoft has their big games event in July, and it's either a big hit or it's a big miss or it's just kind of like meh. And then after that, Sony's going to have their big... See, what's confusing to me about Sony's August event, and I know we're deviating a little bit from this topic, but what's confusing to me is the way this event is seemingly talked about when it comes to the August event. It's like, what's confusing to me is this event is rumored and talked about as if it's absolutely massive, right? Like this is going to be a big thing where they reveal Silent Hill and everything. But it's supposed to be a state of play, and so I'm just like a little bit confused if maybe Sony's going to change their state of plays a little bit, since this is going to be the first state of play they do for next gen. Like maybe they're going to change up the format where it's going to be a little bit more event-like. It's going to be bigger, right? They're going to have more to talk about, more to show, and it will be longer. To me, that makes sense. I could see that happening. But when it comes to Microsoft at that point retaliating with, I don't know, an Xbox Series S console, I don't think that's going to really do much damage, if I'm being completely honest. Like I don't see a Lockhart console doing that much for Microsoft. I mean, will it be good for them? Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to capture the market that just wants to get the cheapest console, but is that really going to be the thing that makes you suddenly competitive with Sony? No, the only thing that's going to make you suddenly very competitive or much more competitive with Sony, it's going to be the games that you show off at this July event. And the thing I'm most interested in discovering over the next couple of months is we know this July event's happening. We know that this is it for Microsoft. Like this is the event that if they're going to win people back, if they're going to get people excited, it's going to be with this event. We also know they have a Lockhart console. And so if you look at the timeline for Microsoft, okay, from where we sit now, based off of what we can see, July, you're going to show off your games. It's going to be a big hit or a big miss. And then in August, you're going to show off your lower end Lockhart console. You look at the timeline for Sony, if this rumor is to be believed, Sony's going to reveal this info about the PS5. And then after that, in August, they're going to have more game reveals. And if Sony has held back a significant amount of game reveals, I mean, Silent Hill is guaranteed. It's a real thing. It's going to be announced. And to me, that alone is big enough. But is Silent Hill alone, coupled with the games that we already know about that Sony has, is that enough to counter, right? To counter the hype that Microsoft may end up generating this month. I think it is, but is it safe to say that Sony's going to have more than just Silent Hill? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's safe to say that they're going to have more than just Silent Hill. And if they have some other significant surprises hidden up their sleeve, then I think Microsoft they may end up getting pinched, man. I really do. I think Microsoft could get pinched if they show this event and their event's pretty good. People are like, yeah, that was awesome. But then Sony comes out in August and they're like, but check this out. Look at what we got. We've been saving it. And then suddenly the hype just goes right back to PlayStation once again, which Sony has been known to do this stuff in the past. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, no. Microsoft's like, no, wait. We have our own. We're going to bring the hype back. Check out our Lockhart console. And then it's like, everybody kind of looks up and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But did you not see what Sony just announced? You know what I mean? And I just feel like Sony, they've just proven that they know how to counter, man. Like they know how to not only capture the hype, but retain the hype and keep it going. So I don't know, man. When it comes to this Lockhart console, right? Kind of shifting gears here, 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM. I've seen some reports and some articles, and to me, this is just absolutely ridiculous where these articles are coming out, and it's like the CPU inside of the Xbox Series S model is more powerful than the PS5 CPU. Like if it's using the same exact CPU clocked at the same, frequency that the Series X is, then yeah, technically I guess, but is it going to matter? No. And so the thing that's frustrating is these articles are written up like they're trying to make it seem like, oh, check this out. The Series S is going to be competitive with the PS5. Like, no, it's not. I mean, like, is it going to be a next-gen console? Well, yeah, even though it will be 4 teraflops, apparently. It's going to be next-gen because it does have that next-gen CPU. It will enable higher frame rates. It will have that SSD, but it's not going to do 4K. And it says it's going to be capable of ray tracing. How much? To what extent? I really don't know about that, man. I mean, you're talking 20 compute units. That's significantly less than the PS5. I don't really see this thing being able to do much with ray tracing and all these other extra effects and features. It's just not going to offer it. And so you're basically, I could be wrong, man, but it just seems like you're going to get slightly better looking games at 1080p, possibly at 60 FPS. And maybe to some people that is next gen for them, but I don't know, man. I look at these specs and I look at what this console's targeting, and it's not for me. I know that. But I guess I'm just wondering, like, who is it for? Especially because it's coming from Xbox. That's what's confusing to me. What's confusing to me is Xbox is putting out this console that's clearly targeted at a more casual market that just looks at the price tag before anything else, and that's understandable. But they're also making all of their games cross-gen for the first year or two. And so I guess maybe in the long run, Lockhart could seem like a really appealing console. And maybe we did hear rumors that the rollout of Lockhart, and this could still be true, is supposed to be staggered. Basically what that means is Microsoft is going to release the Xbox Series X before the Lockhart, and then later on, they're going to release the Lockhart, maybe like a year later. That would make a lot of sense to me. Like if Sony or if Microsoft decided that they want to basically release the Lockhart console the day they decide to stop making their games cross-gen, that would make a lot of sense to me. That makes total sense. But them releasing it at the same time, I mean, how is it going to separate itself from the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X? I mean, of course, one way they could separate it is they're just going to stop selling those models of the Xbox console. That's one way to do it, but it just doesn't make much sense to me because it's like all of your games are going to be playable on the last gen console, and that's presumably going to be the cheapest console that people can buy. So if you're trying to appeal to the market that's like, oh, we care mostly about having the cheapest console, they're going to buy that console, not the Lockhart, not the Series S model, I mean, it comes down to the marketing. If Microsoft can properly market this console and make it so that we can make this console appealing, right? Like we can actually make this console appealing and convince people like this is why you're going to want to buy a $300 next gen console and not the $500 one, then sure. But that's a big challenge when it comes to marketing. Marketing is not easy in general, but when it comes to marketing a product like that, I just don't know how they're going to do it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this Xbox event. We are most likely going to get more leaks and more rumors as we get closer to the event. Once again, I will remind everybody, I will be streaming this event the day it happens. So hopefully you'll be here with me to hang out. I know it's not a PlayStation event, but still, it's exciting. It's Microsoft's big next-gen games event, so I'm definitely willing to tune into that. Hopefully you guys will show up there with me. But before we move on to the next topic, I do have 2 questions I want to ask you guys, and you let me know in the chat. The first question is, so now that we have a date for the for the Xbox event, freaking allergies, man. Now that we have a date for the Xbox event, does it seem likely Sony will announce or reveal something before it? So I'm just interested to see if you guys do actually believe that Sony is going to announce something of their own, whatever it may be, before Microsoft's event, or do you think Sony's going to remain quiet before this event happens? The second question I have is the Lockhart console or Xbox Series X starting to sound S model, I mean the Xbox Series S, is it starting to sound more or less appealing to you as more info continues to leak out? That's a question I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Like, is this console becoming more or less appealing by the month as we learn more about it? And I also want to ask you guys, before we move on to the next topic here, if you could do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button. Hitting the like button really helps the stream out. It's the easiest way for you to boost the stream. We have still over 1,000 people hanging out with me here. Thank you so much for that. Make sure you hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes, and then maybe even after that, get up to 500 likes. That would be absolutely fantastic. Really helps it out, guys. So I'm looking at what you guys are saying in the chat. I do not have a Patreon, by the way. If you want to support me directly, as of right now, the easiest way to do that is by becoming a channel member. Lockhart is more... Did somebody just say Lockhart is more powerful than the PS5? Get out of here with that. I see. Everybody keeps saying DualShock boys. DualShock boys. MBG, you will be happy with Xbox. I hope so, man. I hope so. Like and subscribe. Well, thank you so much. All right, guys. Yeah, hit that like button. We're about to crack 400 likes. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes. Can we do it? We have over 1,000 people watching. I think it's very possible. Really helps the streams out. See, the thing is, YouTube likes to push videos that have a lot of view time, but also a lot of likes. And so one thing I rely on to help grow the podcast is people who actually stumble across the podcast once it's done and I'm done streaming it live and then it goes out there. It really, it helps a lot. So appreciate your support, guys. Let's move on to the third topic here. And I did tell you guys this podcast is probably going to be a little bit shorter, mainly because there's not a whole lot of new stuff to talk about. I mean, this is the trouble with trying to do a weekly podcast on top of daily content. It becomes really difficult not to become overly redundant. And I know that has a tendency to happen. And so I appreciate you guys who just, don't mind me continuing to talk about the same things over and over again. But one thing that I hope we can look forward to in the future, hopefully going into next gen, is we're going to have a lot of info. Like, the best weeks for me are the weeks where there's just so much info that not only do I have enough to do daily content, but there's enough left over that we still have a lot to talk about during the podcast. So, hopefully you guys can stick around for the rest of these topics. At the end, as I want to let everybody know, we go over some basic general gaming news. We don't have too much to go over this week, though, but we do have a Q&A, which is always pretty fun, that I do at the chat at the end. So if you're interested in that, stick around. But the third topic is, should Sony come out and start talking about frame rates now before Microsoft's upcoming event? I'm asking this question because one of the things that Sony didn't really talk about at all when they revealed all of their upcoming PS5 titles is the frame rate. We do know that Demon's Souls will have a 60 frames per second option, which is awesome. And we also know that some third-party games like Dirt 5, we recently just learned that Dirt 5 is going to offer a 120 frames per second mode. And this, for a second, is important to pay attention to because the amount of people who have been trying to make it sound like, oh, look at that, the Xbox Series X is going to be capable of doing 120 frames per second, but the PS5 isn't. Not true. Any game that's developed for these next-gen consoles that can hit 120 frames per second on the Series X will hit 120 frames per second on the PS5 as well. Make no mistake about that. The only difference is whether, Sony chooses to do 120 frames per second for some of their exclusive games, whether Microsoft chooses to, but if it's third party, yeah. But continuing on here, the big question is, well, let me read this first. Big Norman, you're saying, I know this is purely speculation, but what other features and surprises do you think they have left to reveal for the PS5 and Xbox? Well, just speaking for the PS5, hopefully full backwards compatibility, although I wouldn't hold out much hope for that. But I think we're going to see a lot of really interesting, unique, and awesome UI features. We've been seeing different things come out from the patents like picture-in-picture mode. We've been seeing, hearing a lot about this virtual assistant-like thing. And the thing I'm most interested in, honestly, when it comes to features and the UI, is I want to see the stuff that Sony's come up with it's just like quality of life improvements. That it doesn't seem like a big thing, but for people who spend a lot of time on their console, like how instantaneous is it really going to be to get into a game with my friends, or to start up my single player game, or to check certain stats, right? Or to figure out what my friends are doing online, just stuff like that. Like that's the stuff I'm really interested to see, like how major have these quality of life improvements, how major are they going to be? And to me, that's going to be a pretty big thing that I think people are kind of underestimating that Sony and Microsoft will be able to achieve with this SSD. I'm just very interested in seeing that. So finishing what I'm trying to read here, though, it says the big question is, should we expect most AAA games to run at 30 frames per second? Will Sony offer a performance mode for all of their first-party titles? There's a good chance that Microsoft will be putting a pretty big emphasis on frame rate during this July event, at least based on Phil Spencer's recent comments. So if this ends up happening, the question will then become, do Xbox's games look as good as Sony's? And if they do, will they actually run at 60 FPS or higher? Then if that's actually the case, if that actually ends up happening, I think that could actually hurt Sony. But again, that has to be like the perfect storm where Microsoft would have to reveal these games that look just as good as Sony's games, but then also reveal that, they can also be played with this, at this fidelity at 60 frames per second. I don't know how likely that is. Again, I don't think the power difference is nearly significant enough between the Series X and the PS5 to allow for that. Could some games look a little bit better on the Xbox Series X, graphically speaking, with some more bells and whistles? Yeah. Are games going to look that much better and also run at 60 frames per second? Hell no. There's no way that's going to happen, but we have to wait to see what Microsoft's plans are with that. Obviously, this is all speculation on my part, but it just seems like this is a big question that Sony hasn't really answered, and it's starting to seem like we should anticipate that most games are going to run at 30 frames per second, or at the very least, that's going to be the standard. That doesn't mean we won't get a performance mode, but that will most likely still remain the standard. We know that 60 FPS has never really been the standard, and that's not going to change because the power of these consoles and what they're going to offer, just because they can do 60 FPS doesn't mean we're going to. And honestly, this is just marketing 101. I've seen some people, they have the mentality and the attitude, and it's totally understandable that, like, that's absurd. These consoles are more than capable of hitting 4K 60. That absolutely needs to be a standard. But you have to understand, it is a conscious choice made by developers and the vision of their game. And also, make no mistake about it, there's a huge marketing influence here. We have all this extra power. Should we dedicate that to trying to, make our engine so it's capable of running at 60 frames per second as the standard? Or should we use that extra power to make this game look as damn good as it possibly can and just have it run at 30 frames per second? Realistically speaking, put yourself in the shoes of, a studio that's making this big AAA game. Put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to market this product. Which one do you choose? I'll tell you right now, it's super obvious which one you choose. You're going to choose the game or the option that it looks better. Now, I've talked about this time and time again, and the reason why I'm repeating it is because this is something that people are continuing to talk about. I see it in conversations and threads all the time, even in my comment sections, like, can we expect 60 FPS? And we don't really have the answer, but what we know right now, based off of what we can see, it seems like, unfortunately, guys, no, what we can expect is performance modes to be implemented into these consoles. Christopher, you're saying S is starting to look more appealing to me. I'm assuming you're talking about the Xbox Series S model. I will always be PlayStation first, but I want to play Microsoft exclusives, and the S will look and run better than the One X with an SSD RDNA 2 Ryzen. Series X won't be worth the extra $200 as a secondary console. Actually, that's a really good point, Christopher. I didn't really think of it like that, and that's why I was asking this question to my viewers. I appreciate the super chat where you're basically saying that the reason why the Xbox Series S model is looking more appealing to you is because the PlayStation 5, I'm assuming, is going to be your primary console, but you also want to play the Xbox Series S games or just the Xbox exclusive games, whatever they may be, the first party titles. You want to play them at a fidelity that's higher than what the Xbox One X will offer, but you are okay with not getting full 4K. So that's interesting. I wonder how many people feel the same way you do, where you're looking at it more as like a secondary console that you can dedicate to just playing a lot of the Microsoft games. So yeah, maybe that'll be the console I end up getting in the future. It'll be, interesting to see how many games are going to look, be stuck at 1440p 30. The thing is, games running at 1440p 30 doesn't mean they're going to look bad. I mean, if you look at The Last of Us Part 2, for as good as that game looked, that was running at 1440p at 30 frames per second. So yeah, that's worth paying attention to, but thank you for that, buddy. But when it comes to this whole frame rate conversation, guys, the harsh reality is the games that Sony showed off, the reason why they didn't talk about frame rate is because, yeah, they're all most likely running at 30 frames per second. And if they are running at 60 frames per second, that's something that Sony has yet to announce or reveal. And they could be saving it. I just don't think it's likely. The only thing is, I would have to say that it would be really smart of Sony to start talking about frame rates. I think that Sony should issue a mandate, and I don't know if this would put too much strain on the developers, because the truth is I'm not a developer and I have no idea, and I would be interesting to see what a developer has to say about this. I have no idea how much extra time and resources and effort it takes to implement a performance mode into your AAA game or into your game in general. If it's a significant amount, then I can understand why it's not a mandate. But frankly, I think, and this goes for Microsoft as well, but I think it would be super smart of Sony to implement a mandate where it's like, hey, for all of our first party studios making exclusive games, you need to offer a performance mode. I just think that would be the smartest way to go about it, because you could get the best of both worlds at that point. The people who are all about the graphics and having the games look the best that they possibly can and squeezing everything out of it and getting all those extra bells, visual bells and whistles, and they're okay with playing at 30 frames per second, then they're going to be happy. And if you let everybody know that every game will come with a performance mode so it can hit 60 frames per second, where it's just not going to look as graphically as impressive, it can still hit 4K, but maybe it's not going to have ray tracing, or it's going to have ray tracing turned off, or just not going to have, all these extra effects and whatnot. It's just going to be basically a higher resolution, maybe not native 4K, but still a higher resolution. I just think that would be the best solution. And that way you don't run into this problem where if your competition, that being Microsoft, if they do have more games that run at higher, frame rates, you can compete with that. But that's assuming that Microsoft is going to have that. For all we know, Microsoft may have just as many games that are going to run at 30 FPS. And so, I don't know. You're saying Polyphony Digital is targeting 120 frames at 4K with Gran Turismo 7. And yeah, that's the thing, is like, it also comes down to the type of game. Like, if it's a shooter, hit 60 FPS. You can't go lower than that. If it's like a fighting game or a racing game, those games where it's like the frames are more important than the extra little added effects and details, yeah, you definitely want to make sure you hit those higher frame rates for sure. No doubt about that. So the two questions I want to leave you guys with is, do you think Sony has plans to announce a performance mode for most of their exclusive titles? Like games like Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, these types of games. Do you think that, for as good as they look, Sony is also going to offer a performance mode for these games? I think it's 50-50. I'm not anticipating it. I feel like if that was something that Sony was going to announce for these bigger games, they would have already announced it because they did announce it for Demon Souls. So that tells you that Sony is not, and I think it just comes down to the studios. Like, I think maybe Blue Point Games decided, oh, we're going to talk about this because it's a feature we implemented. Maybe Ratchet and Clank, Insomniac Games is like, no, we're just going to lock this game at 30 frames per second because that's what we want to do. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of like, what do you really do at that point? I mean, would it be smart of Sony to mandate something like that? Would it be too imposing on developers? I mean, Sony would know the answer to that question more than I would. The developers would, but I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how much people really care about frame rate. What I will say is this happens every single generation, guys. It's the same song and dance where people are like, oh, we need higher frame rates and we demand it. And then it's just like, no, 30 FPS is going to stay the standard. And then that's just it. You know what I mean? And then like nothing happens and people just continue to buy these consoles en masse and buy these games. And that's just it. You know what I mean? So, but the good news is there seems to have been a trend where more and more AAA developers are putting performance modes into their games. So, yeah, the last question I want to ask you guys in regards to this topic is, do you think it will look bad on Sony's part if Microsoft goes out of their way to talk about higher frame rates with many of their games during this event? Do you think that's basically going to be something that people walk away from that and be like, oh, look, Microsoft was talking about frame rates. Microsoft's talking about all these games hitting 60 FPS or having a 60 FPS option. Sony, where are you at? What's your answer? Let me know your thoughts about that. I'm going to be interested to see what you guys have to say. And we are going to move on to the final main topic here before we go over some general gaming news and do a Q&A with the chat. So do me a favor. I know I've been asking a lot, but we still have over 900 people hanging out here with me. Thank you so much for that. Be sure to hit that like button. We are so close to 500 likes. That would really help the stream out significantly. But we're talking briefly about backwards compatibility. PS5 full backwards compatibility. We know that PS4 games are confirmed, and it's been rumored for a long time now that Sony is saving a big announcement that the PS5 will in fact play PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. These rumors have come from different sources and different places, and the fact that Sony has not outright confirmed or denied it yet, this is why these conversations continue. We know that Sony will have to talk more about backwards compatibility before the PS5 launches, and so the big question is, will they have this big announcement, or will it just be them focusing on PS4 titles? Also, Sony has not talked much about their plans for PS4 exclusives running on PS5. I think it is safe to assume that we will see games like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and Death Stranding get a boost automatically. But other than that, we don't know what else Sony is planning for like PS5 enhanced games. And so just again, to talk really briefly about this is just a conversation that is seemingly going to continue to happen until this console actually comes out or until Sony just outright denies it. Something tells me that even if the PS5 came out and it wasn't backwards compatible with PS3, PS2, and PS1, people are still going to say, oh, it's going to be coming in the future. And it might be. But to me, it just seems like, I don't know, we might be reading into this too much. I did do a video earlier this week where we talked about a comment that came from a Sony Japan executive where they're like, he doesn't have anything to say about it. And it's really easy to read too much into that. I mean, he's not saying, no, we're not doing it, but he's definitely not saying we are doing it. He's just saying he's not talking about it. And that does kind of lead people to think like, oh, so does this mean you're going to be talking about it soon? And they could be. One thing I will tell you is this, like, I don't know that Sony is going to care too much about backwards compatibility beyond PS4, especially when they have PlayStation Now. But the biggest reason I say this, for as disappointing as it may be for some people, is because look at what they were able to achieve with the PS4, which had no form of backwards compatibility. It's one of their best-selling consoles of all time. And they achieved that without putting a big without any backwards compatibility other than PlayStation Now, which people were not happy at that solution, obviously. And so I don't want to say that there's absolutely no way at all that they could, potentially not have something like this hidden up their sleeve, but I just don't think it's something we want to really kind of hold on to here and expect, because I've seen people, they keep coming out and being like, "You just wait for it. I know it." Like they keep acting like they have sources that are telling them, like, and it would be hard for me to believe that they would have this information, regardless of who they are. That yes, the PS5 will be fully backwards compatible, and for me, this is one of those moments where, as much as I like to believe people who are coming up with these rumors and claiming this, as much as I want to believe that and be like, yeah, I would love that, this is one of those rare situations where I'm just like, I will believe it when I see it, man, because I just don't think it's going to happen. Chris B, you're saying leading people on about PS1 through PS3 back compatibility is bad. They should just shut down the conversation as soon as possible if it's not there. Yeah, I agree, Chris. I mean, this is where we don't. Is it possible that Sony is going to go into the next generation without mentioning this at all? Of course it's possible. Is that a smart thing to do? No, I don't think it is, because in a way, like, if Sony doesn't deny this, then in a way they are leading people on, especially because their competition with Xbox is constantly flexing that as a big selling point for them, right? For me, backwards compatibility is just, it's the cherry on top. It's the sprinkles on top. It's not the cake, and it's not even the icing. It's just that little extra bonus, right? Like, it doesn't, when I buy a next-gen console, I'm all in with the next-gen games. But I do understand the importance of backwards compatibility, especially when you think about the idea of, oh, wow, I can't bring any of my PS4 games with me, not even the last generation. But Sony has that covered. And so for me, that would be more than enough. And PS3, PS2, and PS1, I do agree that I honestly think that Sony should just get out ahead here and let us know, because if they don't, people are going to continue to come up with rumors. People are going to continue to claim that they know. And maybe maybe the reason why Sony hasn't actually confirmed or denied this is because they do have some type of solution, maybe not an ideal one, maybe not one that we like, but they do have some solution to that. Like, they will at some point talk briefly about PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. Whether that's in the form of PlayStation Now or, hey, you can just pop your disc in. I think that's extremely unlikely. But yeah, I just had to take a couple minutes to talk about that, guys, because this is a conversation that's going to continue to happen. And so we've been hearing that apparently Sony is going to have some type of, again, this is just rumor territory. You have to take it with a massive pinch of salt. But we've been hearing for some time now that before the end of the year, before this console launches, Sony is going to have some type of backwards compatibility related event. And I do think about that little picture that Mark Cerny showed off during the PS5 event, where it showed PS5 games in native mode, and then PS4 Pro, and then PS4. And then there was just like all this room left below it where it did really come off. I mean, again, it's like, I don't know if they're doing this purposely just to troll people, or if they're not aware that they're doing this. But if you look at that picture, it literally just looks like PS3, PS2, and PS1 are supposed to go there. Like, it literally looks like that. I've seen people fill it in and it fits perfectly. And so, hearing these rumors of a dedicated backwards compatibility event, or not, there's going to be more than just that. Like, Sony's not just going to have an event just for backwards compatibility. They will talk about more, obviously, than that. But that's going to be like a big thing that they do talk about. I will say, man, like, if this does happen, which I don't believe it will, but if it does happen, it's going to be a massive announcement. And I say that not because, because I see people say to me, you're like, oh, look at these PlayStation dudes. They downplay backwards compatibility, make it seem like it's not a big deal at all. Nobody really cares about it. But then at the same time, they say, oh, if Sony were to announce full backwards compatibility, that's a bomb drop moment all of a sudden. It is, though. It is. And the reason why is because it's so unexpected. And it's so like, wow, they actually did it. It's not even so much like, I'm one of those people, like, realistically, if the PS5 was fully backwards compatible, do I see myself going back playing PS1, PS2, and PS3 games realistically? No, I honestly don't. Does it mean I never would? Not even once? No. But it's not something that I'm like, oh man, this is going to be my most used feature on the PS5 or whatever. No. But it is one of those things where I'd be like, holy shit, they actually did it. Like, I didn't think they would do it. They did it. And people would be very surprised, and they would make a big deal about it. And it would also take away one of, in my opinion, Xbox's biggest strengths that they have over PlayStation currently, which is they can flex that, yeah, you can play every generation of Xbox on the new one. And that's a big deal maybe not a big deal, but it's just a nice thing. It's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, I don't think anybody can deny that that's an awesome thing to have. So the two questions I want to leave you guys with here are: do you believe Sony is saving the big announcement that the PS5 is fully backwards compatible? Let me know. Do you think Sony will have a dedicated event at some point before the PS5 launches talking about this? So let me know your thoughts about that in the chat. We are now going to move on to just covering a little bit of general gaming news here, and then we are going to finish off this podcast by having a chat, a Q&A with the chat, I should say. So, yeah, let me just take a drink of my coffee here, see what you guys are saying in the chat, answer my question here about backwards compatibility. See some of you saying, yes, you do. Who cares about full backwards compatibility? Possibly, but it's not a big system seller. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you have to understand, like, Sony's goal is to sell systems here, and you do have to question, like, how big of a system seller is that really? To me, the idea of full backwards compatibility isn't so much a system seller. I mean, for some people, for the hardcore PlayStation fans, it is. But for the wider gaming audience, it's more of one of those, like, you know, now this is just Sony flexing again, you know? Flexing on Xbox. But is July 13th official yet? No, it's not. So let me just bang out this gaming news real quick, and we will do a chat, Q&A with the chat, I mean. So Sony has revealed the release date for Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. It's launching on the Epic Games Store and Steam on August 7th, and will include the base game and the Frozen Wilds expansion. Horizon Zero Dawn has already made its way to the top-selling game on Steam. So yeah, it's going to sell really, really well, and Sony's going to make a lot of money. And I'm telling you, after this game launches and Sony sees how much money they rake in from putting this game on PC, you're going to see more PS4 exclusives. I need to emphasize that. PS4 exclusives make their way to PC. And it's interesting because something tells me that this, this may actually be a pretty effective way for Sony to convince PC gamers to maybe go buy a PS5, man. You know, I definitely see that. So, yeah, pretty big news there for Horizon Zero Dawn. We'll see. I mean, what I'm going to be paying attention to when it comes to Horizon Zero Dawn on PC is if Sony actually announces sales numbers. Like, if they're actually impressive enough. Like, if it just sells like 5 million copies or something like that, that would be insane. So, we'll see how that ends up working out for them. But this second piece of news I find incredibly interesting. And any Metal Gear Solid fans here will find it interesting. MBG, do you think Microsoft is showing a new IP in July? I would hope so, man. I feel like they absolutely need a new IP. I would be stunned if we had that July event and they didn't have a new IP to show off. But this second piece of news, the Metal Gear Solid movie director gave a bit of an update on the upcoming movie, and it sounds like it's not happening anytime soon, but it's because he refuses to let Hollywood get in the way of keeping, Metal Gear Solid true to what it is. He wants to get it right, and he wants to keep it true to Metal Gear Solid and the universe and what the fans expect, which I respect that heavily. I'm so glad. It tells me, I think it's Jordan Vogt-Roberts. He's the one who's directing the Metal Gear Solid movie. I'm really glad that he's doing it because, in my opinion, that's the kind of person we need. Somebody who's a genuine fan, big enough of a fan that, like, if Hollywood's going to say no or they're going to, like, reject it, he's just going to wait until they say yes, because at that point, it's not worth making. But what's even more interesting is he said he did talk about trying to get an animated Metal Gear Solid series going, and it might actually happen where he's going to get Snake's original voice actor, that being David Hayter, to return. That would be absolutely awesome. Could you imagine a Netflix Metal Gear Solid series with David Hayter voicing Snake? Oh my God. That'd be awesome in my opinion. I'd be all for that. But moving right along here, Mega Bloks may have revealed a major plot detail for Halo Infinite, although maybe not a very surprising one. So I'm going to give you a little warning here. This could be a potential pretty big spoiler for Halo Infinite. Again, not a surprising one, but still a spoiler if you don't want to hear it. So I'll give you guys a second or two to click off the stream if you don't want to hear this. However, I have a feeling that most of you don't really care too much. Again, it's not surprising, but here I go. Apparently, Mega Bloks may have revealed that Agent Locke, will be killed at some point during the game. So yeah, again, not very surprising. Does anybody think that Locke is going to play a major role in Halo Infinite and he's not going to be killed off almost immediately? No, it's not a surprising leak, and frankly, I don't think anybody cares. If anything, it adds hype to the game. I don't know. But moving right along here, Microsoft recently renewed the Fable trademark, and it is marked with intent to use. So yeah, keep an eye out for that upcoming Fable announcement. It's pretty much guaranteed it's going to happen. Ivan, you're saying, have you read this yet? Next-gen games on PS5 will continue to have 30 FPS options, and here's why. Screen Rant website, Review Tech USA talked about. I have not seen that, actually. I'll have to go look into that. I don't think I'm subscribed to Review Tech. Maybe I should, if I could speak. I'm having trouble today. Subscribe to him, but I'll go check out that article, man. That sounds pretty interesting. Usually this stuff doesn't slide past me, but next gen. Okay, so it's from Screen Rant. All right, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate you looking out. I'll have to go check that out. Resident Evil 8. And it's apparently they're trying not to call it Resident Evil 8 because it's just like a continuation of Resident Evil 7, is about 60% completed, and Capcom is emphasizing that it will finish the story that Resident Evil 7 was telling, and they have greatly improved the first-person mechanics. Resident Evil 8 will also be longer than Resident Evil 7, the RE2 and RE3 remakes, but not the longest game in the series, and there will be a greater focus on exploration. So that sounds pretty cool. Dreams is getting PSVR support and will be arriving on July 22nd. It will be a free update with new tutorials, how-tos, and kits to get you started, and there will apparently be just new content in general as well. So for anybody who's a big fan of Dreams and still playing it and you own a PSVR, you can look forward to that. And finally, Toys for Bob has officially confirmed that Crash Bandicoot 4 will not contain any form of microtransactions. They had to confirm this after some reports started to circulate claiming that it would. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the topics and all of the news. Again, I know that this is going to be a shorter podcast, but frankly, it's simply because there's just not too much extra stuff to talk about that we haven't talked about during the week, and I don't want to just, artificially extend the podcast. So at this point, we're going to end it like we usually do. We're going to do a chat, a Q&A with the chat, but you got to give me 1 second here as I enable slow mode. So don't say anything yet. Give me a second. I'm going to enable this, and there we go. And so, yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, anything you want to ask me, do it now. We'll dedicate a couple minutes to that. MBG, what types of new IP would you like to see on PS5? I'd like to see something in space because I feel like we haven't really seen something like that from Sony. iSiler18, I think there will be multiple prices on games, so Sony could be $70 or just games that have 20 plus hours of content, 60 for less than stellar titles. I could see that as well. I think we've seen Sony and Microsoft becoming certainly more flexible with the pricing of their games, so I have to agree with that, iSiler. How fast do you think the PS5 console pre-orders will sell out? I think within hours. So July 13th, we don't know if it's going to happen, but be ready. Be ready. MBG, don't know if this is appropriate, but what do you think of so many people in the gaming industry getting Me Too'd? I'm not really going to speak to that, honestly, because I try to, I try not to focus this channel on that, but, it happens everywhere, and it just seems like it's kind of it has a cascading effect, it seems, where it happens in waves, and I just hope that if there's any BS going on, that it's dealt with and handled accordingly, and that, it's just such a gray area. I just hope that, anybody who deserves something that's coming to them, I hope that justice is served, and I hope that nobody, who is not doing anything wrong ends up having to pay any type of consequences. That's all I can say about that. Ivan, you're saying, do I want the link for the video? No, it's not a big deal, man. I know Review Tech USA. I'll go check out his video. Crispy, you're saying the Series S is targeting 1080p. Does that mean that the Xbox One X will be targeting 4K 30? That's what I don't get. Like that's a great question, and that really just makes you wonder what the hell is the point of the Xbox One X? You know, like what are what is a cross-gen game running on the Xbox One X and the Xbox Series S? What is going to be the difference there, dude? Other than maybe like no loading times or less loading times? I really don't know. I can't answer that. What is your game of the year? Or MBG backwards compatibility is meh. It's good to have, not a deal breaker. I agree. What is your game of the year so far? I don't know, man. I got to go back and think about the games I played. I'm going to wait until I play Ghost of Tsushima to answer that. Yo, MBG, my PS4 broke, but I'm still buying games. Should I keep going on the games? And the games that I buy are surely going to the PS5. I'm buying PS4 again if it doesn't happen. Yeah, I think it's safe to buy the games, man. I think you'll be able to play them on the PS5. Don't hold me to that, though. MBG, will you stream the Xbox event? Never watched a live stream with a group of people. It'll be interesting to see with others. Yes, 100% I will be streaming that event. 100%. MBG, I have a question, bud. Do you think we will see Casper PS1 on PS5? I don't think so, man. I don't think so, Freeze Ramp. Do folks not realize Ghost of Tsushima cinema mode would look like garbage at 60 FPS? That's a good point. Nick T, I apologize if I can't answer all your questions, guys. I'm doing my best. Nick T, you're saying games like NBA 2K21 is having two versions with a next-gen version costing $70. That tells me that the boost mode we get via smart delivery will be minimal. Yeah, I mean, dude, this is all down to the publishers. You know there's going to be publishers that are going to get greedy, but you're probably right about it being minimal, dude. Do you think Kojima's game that fell through was his horror game? I think it's possible, yeah. Definitely. Kojima might have a little bit of a harder time, getting something going after Death Stranding, unfortunately. MBG, will we see the legendary new IP with great characters this generation, or will this be the generation of sequels, reboots, and remasters? We will get new IP. I promise you. Sony has enough creative talent that we're going to get new IP. How much do you think Anita Sarkeesian involved affect The Last of Us Part 2? I have no idea, man. I'm pretty much done talking about The Last of Us Part 2. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, you know? MBG, I have a question, bud. Do you think... Cass already answered that one. Casper on PS5, no. Is this rumor circulating about Silent Hill true? There is a leak regarding the collector's edition with the pyramid head statue. Dude, it's 100%. I'm telling you. I don't want to say why I know, but I'm just going to say, like, Silent Hill is real, and it's going to be announced most likely before the end of the year. I'm going to say in August. You think that Sony will ever buy Rockstar? No, I don't think they will. Early copies, he'll shill, so it's not a good idea. If Sony gave MBG early copies, he would shill. I will admit that, I mean, no, it wouldn't impact my, like, how I feel about a game. I would just feel more obligated to, like, take it a little bit, like, not more seriously, but try to be more professional about it. If anything, maybe that's the thing that a benefit I do have of not getting review copies is it gives me more leeway to, like, if I really don't like something, I don't have to worry about, like, like, what if I'm too harsh? You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing, like, I'm not worried about that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to tell you what I think of a game, if I love it, if I hate it. I do try to be fair, though. You know, I try not to go overboard with anything, even though I frequently do. I do try, though. Hammer, you're saying I think 30 FPS is unacceptable on next-gen consoles. We need to compete with PC gamers. I'm telling you, man, we need the option. Will you buy... I saw a vid that reviews said Ghost of Tsushima is boring. Well, I don't agree with that. Will you buy Bug Snacks day one? Maybe. MVG can't decide his game of the year yet because he has not played Bug Snacks. Bug Snacks, yeah. Cameron, you're saying, thoughts on the rumors of Konami trying to amend with Kojima to get him back? Should he do it or stay with Sony? What kind of new IP should he make? Well, considering the relationship that Konami and Sony seemingly have right now, which is a very good relationship, a working relationship, I would love to see Kojima go back to Konami, man. I know that sounds insane, but if they really did mend that, and Konami's like, you know what? Here's your massive budget again, Kojima. We miss you. You did good stuff for us. Do your thing again. We're sorry. And Kojima's like, okay, that sounds good to me. Then, dude, I'm all for that, man. Like, if Kojima could get his hands back on Metal Gear, I would, dude, that'd be a dream come true. So, I mean, and maybe they could do something partnered with Sony, you know? Something has to happen with Metal Gear. Do you think the PS5 with disc will be $450 and the PS5 discless $400? It's possible, but I think it's more likely the disc version will be $500. What games do you think will make it on PC if Horizon is successful? Spider-Man, God of War, maybe Death Stranding's already on PC. Days Gone. I don't really care. Backwards compatibility. Abby versus Kratos in a death match. Dude, Abby would destroy Kratos. You kidding me? Nah, I'm just kidding. I think Kratos would win that one. I mean, he's a god, you know? Henry Haskin, sorry, I'm trying not to miss this. Did I get yours already? Yeah, I got yours, Henry. I think that Sony didn't give you early copies because of the fact that you used to be an Xbox guy. They could still be under that impression. It's possible, man. It's possible. It is what it is, dude. Like I said, I'm a human being. Like, I get a little bit like jealous when I'm on Twitter and literally everybody's like, I got Ghost of Tsushima. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. Can't wait to give you my review. And I'm like, damn it. Like, I have this big audience here. I mean, I consider you guys a big audience, you know, a really interactive audience. And I know you guys are just as passionate about gaming as I am and very passionate about PlayStation exclusives. I'm just like, damn, I would love to be able to do that for you guys. But maybe it's better that we experience it together, you know? I mean, the truth is, I won't be able to talk about anything spoilery anyway, so maybe it's a good thing. MBG, would the Xbox Series S be $300? Would it play games better than the PS5? Yes to the $300. No about it playing games better than the PS5. I think there may be... Kelvin Smith, you're saying Xbox games 5,611, Sony games 9,195. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm a little bit sluggish today, so I'm having, even on slow mode, trouble keeping up with all these questions. Just ask it again if I miss it, and there's a good chance I'll catch it that time. Is it possible that the PS5 disc version costs $400 and the digital will cost $300? Absolutely not. I'm gonna be real with you right now. Osama bin Laden, absolutely not. Absolutely not. How about Small Soldiers on PS1? I don't know, man. Sounds like you're hoping for some nostalgic games, but I don't think so, man. Maybe you didn't get a review copy because you talked about The Last of Us Part 2 leaks. Yeah, that's possible, man, but hey, it is what it is. I feel like there's other content creators who have done that and they ended up getting review copies. I am, you know. Have I watched any Mortal Shell? I would love your... I know you love your Souls. Yeah, actually, that's a game that keeps... I know it's like on my radar, but like very faintly because I keep forgetting about it, but I have seen that game. Totally hyped for that game. Very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to come out on the PS4 before the end of the year, so hell yeah, that's a day one buy for me. Mortal Shell, people. Go check out that game. Looks really good. Sony just wants to get pre-orders. Do you think Microsoft will ever try making games that can have quality similar to Sony's exclusives? Sorry for repeating the question. That's okay. They have to. I don't think they have a choice, man. Will they? I think so. It's a matter of talent. Like, is there talent capable of making those types of games? LA Lake Show 247. Sony just wants to get pre-orders out to see how many PS5s they need to make. Also, there is a production warehouse that is making a PS5 every 30 seconds. Damn, PS5 every 30 seconds. Yeah, dude, I saw that. I think I might make a dedicated video to that because that is huge if it's true. If they can pump out PS5s that quick, then damn, that is every 30 seconds. Try to imagine that, man. Thank you for that, though, buddy. Thank you for all the super chat donations, guys. Where is a Killzone? We needed an FPS at launch. Dude, I'm super confused about that. I do not know why Sony does not seemingly have a single multiplayer shooter-based game, whether it's an FPS or third-person game at all, to compete with Halo Infinite. To me, that's just bizarre. Let's see. Will Bug Snacks play at 120 frames per second? I think it's possible. Jog my memory, MBG. Is it normal to take pre-orders before confirming the launch lineup? Don't want to spend $500 on a game before there's... I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know if that's actually normal, but we can assume that at least a handful of the games we saw will be there at the launch. So maybe. I don't know, man. Things are happening in a different order this time around, you know, very differently. Do you think Microsoft will ever try making games that can have a... I think I answered that one already. Let me see. How long do you think the next God of War will take to make? Also, can you shout out Houston? Be greatly appreciated. Yeah, so shout out to Houston. And when it comes to how long it will take them to make the next God of War, I think it just depends on like how much they want to like expand the scope of the game. Like, do they want to keep it very similar to the first game in terms of size, scale, and scope, or do they want to greatly expand it? If they want to greatly expand it, it'll definitely take a little bit longer. If they want to keep it the same, the only thing that could really hold them up is story direction and things like, you know, any extra features, stuff like that that they want to add. So I don't know. I think we could see it maybe in 2022. The Last of Us 2 multiplayer PS5 exclusive. Yeah, dude, I don't know what's going on with that. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Naughty Dog just doesn't talk about that, because I'm just confused because they said it was a thing that they're working on and they just never talked about it again. Maybe they're just waiting until they get further removed from The Last of Us Part 2. Did the gym reopen? Not that I'm aware of. I'm about to just build my own home gym. PS4 games need to hit better than 60 frames per second. How about 70, 80, or 90? I don't consider under 60 FPS next gen. Well, that just might be the way it's going to go, man. Do you think they'll port Dying Light to the PS5 running at 60 FPS? Both games? It's possible, man. It's possible. When do you think the PS5 price will decrease? 4 years into next gen? I think it depends on how well the console sells. If the console sells anywhere near as well as the PlayStation 4, then don't expect a price drop anytime soon. If it struggles to really catch on the same way the PS4 did, you might see a price drop sooner rather than later. Freeze Ramp, you're saying your 2 messages have been skipped. I know, man. I try to keep up with it. I apologize if I skip anybody's messages. You don't need to get a Series X if you want to play Hellblade 2. It's going to be on the One X. I know. Did you party and light fireworks last night? I had a little bit of a party, nothing too crazy. I think my neighbors were lighting off fireworks, so I just let them kind of handle that, and I just sat back and enjoyed it. But yeah, it was a late night last night. That's probably why I'm so sluggish today, and I'm not hungover or anything, but I just didn't get much sleep, so I actually don't drink. Have I ever played The Evil Within? Yeah, dude, I love The Evil Within and Evil Within 2. I thought The Evil Within 2 was like one of the most underrated games ever. Do you think that PS will have another event and announce games like Silent Hill to counter Xbox's event? 100%. I do think that's what's going to happen. Do you prefer to play games with enhancement settings such as HDR and bassy audio, or do you like a more natural experience? I actually keep HDR off because every time I use HDR, it just looks ridiculous. Maybe I don't have it calibrated right, but it just like things just look too damn bright and too damn dark, and I'm just like, I don't like that. When it comes to the audio experience, yeah, I love bass, man. Love bass. Metacritic prediction for Ghost of Tsushima. Not that it matters, but I believe it'll be in between an 88 and a 92. I can agree with that. I mean, I would be surprised if Ghost of Tsushima got any less than an 85 because, dude, I'm gonna be pissed off if it does, because it's just like look, I haven't played the game, but I'm looking at this game and I'm like, this shit looks better than like almost like just so many other games that get higher scores. And I swear to the Lord, okay, maybe I'm not gonna swear to the Lord, but I swear on something. If I see reviewers knocking this game because they're like, it just copies what other games already do, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna literally lose it. Because how many games? I could probably find so many damn games that there is really not much innovation. Like, they are just doing things that other games have already done, but in a more refined way. And they're getting like these 10 out of 10s. And these not like, dude, sorry, Last of Us Part 2, perfect example. There was barely any innovation on that gameplay front. The animations were amazing, but I'm talking like just pure raw, how it feels to play the game. It's the same as The Last of Us 1 with a dodge mechanic and a prone mechanic. Okay? So if I hear any reviewers using that as a reason to knock Ghost of Tsushima, because that's That's been the biggest thing I've seen so far against Ghost of Tsushima. Is like, oh, it just looks like another open world game. It looks like it's another Assassin's Creed clone. And I'm like, stop. Just stop. Please stop. Like, stop. Okay? If there's anything that's bad about Ghost of Tsushima, it better not be that, because I mean, if you want to say like there's too much filler or the side content isn't meaningful enough or something like that, but I don't want to hear that, oh, it doesn't innovate enough or something. Like, get the hell out of here. It's a damn new IP and it looks damn good. And this is a game I will defend, because I'm telling you, man, like, I love new IP, and I give new IP more leeway. I really do. I did it with Days Gone, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima. It doesn't mean I'm automatically going to say it's a great game, but I will give them bonus points, because new IP it's difficult to stick the landing. Much more difficult, in my opinion, only because like it's you have to sell people on just the basic premise and concept. And granted, what Ghost of Tsushima is doing is, in my opinion, a really easy sell. But Henry, you're saying Red Dead Redemption 2 is just another open world game. That's what I mean, man. Is like Red Dead Redemption 2 has a 97 on Metacritic, and I'm gonna be real right now. Like, what Red Dead Redemption 2 does on a fundamental level, fundamentally speaking, is nothing game changing. It's everything beyond that. It's the amount of detail, the amount of effort into making sure that every little thing that goes into it is mostly meaningful, right? It's not trying to innovate on any huge major way. In fact, the innovation almost lies in the refinement, right? As weird as that sounds, it's like this blend of like you're refining something to the point where it's like it is innovative, because nobody else has refined a game to this level before. iSiler18, you're saying not really feeling Ghost at the moment. There's something about the samurai and feudal era Japan that bores me. I felt the same way with Neo. I'm bored with the gameplay for sure, though. I'm on board with the gameplay for sure, though. That's understandable, man. I mean, like, that right there is the easiest way to judge the game, in my opinion, where it's like, if you're just not into the setting, then you're just not into the setting. I'm interested in the feudal Japan setting. It's going to be interesting to see, like, how grounded it is, and it seems like it's going to be pretty grounded, but, you're saying you're on board with the gameplay. I am as well. I think the gameplay, I think this gameplay is going to live or die based on two things. The first thing is the combat, and I think that's the most important thing, because it looks like this is going to be a very combat-heavy game. If the combat doesn't feel good, then that's going to be a big problem. You're saying MBG, but Red Dead Redemption does everything perfect. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it's like it's not doing anything that, in a way, hasn't already been done. It's like, that's the thing. You'll find that innovation and refining something, like it's taking something that somebody came up with and making it even better, or making it close to perfect. A lot of times people tend to prefer that, because something, the wheel doesn't necessarily need to be reinvented. It just needs to be improved upon or refined. That's all I'm trying to say. And that's why I think, like, I will never knock a game for copying, you know what I mean? Things that other games are doing. If they copy it and they do it worse, or it's not as good, or it just is a literal, like, this is the exact same thing to the T, then that's a little bit disappointing. LSSJT, you're saying, sorry, I've been working on my engine for the past 3 weeks, so I haven't been able to watch or donate. How do you feel about Sly Cooper? Nice mic, too. Well, that's okay, man. I really do appreciate you stopping by, buddy. And I'm glad you noticed the new mic. I'm glad you like it. How do I feel about a Sly Cooper, or Sly Cooper in general? I've never played the series. It's a series that one day I may play, but it's a series I never really grew up playing, so I don't really have many thoughts on it. I know people really love it. I'd totally be up for a new Sly Cooper, for sure. Red Dead Redemption 2 is really good, though. Keep in mind, I'm not saying Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, on a fundamental level, it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just trying to basically say, we're going to take a game and a bunch of game concepts that have already been done, but take it literally further than anybody ever has, to the point where it's like, wow, like, this is impressive. Sucker Punch said that curiosity will be rewarded, so I'm sure it won't be a boring, empty world. Yeah, that's the big thing too. Is like I understand why people can roll their eyes. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's another open world, dude. People said the same thing about Days Gone, and I will admit that if you try to platinum Days Gone, but this goes for most other games, it can get a little bit tedious. But you don't have to platinum it. That's just for people like me and maybe you who want to platinum it, right? And say we got the platinum. But I found that that world was pretty interesting. Like, and it was open, and there were wide open spaces, but at the same time, there's something to be said about like I'm exploring this world and I just come across a massive horde that I didn't even know was there, and suddenly you're just in the thick of the action, right? And I'm gonna be interested to see how Ghost of Tsushima handles that. Every game iterates its combat upon the Arkham slash Assassin's Creed formula. Hypocrites need a reason to hate. I mean, that's the thing, man. Is like again, you can't expect every developer to try and reinvent the wheel. Not only is it just way too risky, but most of the time it's completely unnecessary, frankly. But that's not to say that I don't want innovation. Of course I do, but you got to pick and choose, man. MBG, I really love the story and the gameplay. When are you going to finish playing Detroit? Dude, literally wasn't even thinking about that game until you just mentioned it. I totally forgot about that. I don't know. I'm going to have to get to that. What's my PSN account level? I think I'm 12 right now. I haven't platinumed something in a while. I should have had the platinum for PUBG, but it's still glitched out and won't unlock. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I was contemplating platinuming The Last of Us, Part 2, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I will most likely try to platinum Ghost of Tsushima, though. Are you nervous about Uncharted being handled by another studio? When Naughty Dog left Crash Bandicoot, the quality of the franchise dived off a cliff for a decade. It seems like they're hiring a lot of people who did work at Naughty Dog or have experience with Uncharted to help guide them, so I'm going to say no. But it might not be Uncharted, man. It might literally be a new IP, and frankly, I would be okay with either. I know there's a lot of people who are like, just let Uncharted rest. I can agree with that, but Uncharted's a big seller for Sony, so Days Gone kind of copied the first Last of Us, but it's one of my favorite games. I don't agree at all with that, man. I don't agree. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I don't think the only thing that Days Gone copied is the premise of a post-apocalyptic world with infected. Other than that, they're two very different games, in my opinion. iSiler18, I have a feeling Halo will be very impressive this month. Also, whatever happened to the members-only stream? So, iSiler18, first of all, I do agree that I think Halo will have an impressive showing. Second of all, the members stream is out there, man. Again, like, I think I'm going to have to scrap the members only stream because my members are just not being notified no matter how many times I let them know or how many times I post. And I think that's on YouTube's end because they do emphasize it's still in beta. And I think there's just a lot of kinks they have to work out. So instead of doing a members only stream, I'm going to end up doing a members only gameplay commentary where I just pre-record myself playing a game, like some of these YouTubers do. And it'll be like 30, 45 minutes long, and I'll put it out, and it'll just be a different flavor of content for you guys exclusively. But I'll have to think about that. Because, dude, that members only stream has like 50 views, I think. But I know for a fact that when I was doing it, there was literally like 12 people there. And it was difficult because there should have been way more. So how's the merch development going? It's going. I'm going to try to have something ready to go. Don't hold me to this, but I'm still working on it. I'm going to try to have something ready to go by the time Ghost of Tsushima launches. Now, the thing is, I'm going to have to experiment with merch a little bit because I have like some ideas that I want to implement, but I'm not sure if it's like allowed. Like when it comes to the whole like, this is Sony's IP, like this is their stuff versus like they're okay with you using this or whatever, or if you I don't know if you have to get permission or whatnot. But I'm going to try my best to have some pretty appealing merch for you guys. And if I run into any problems, I'll probably have to take it down. But there will be merch that's just focused around MBG. Like I'm hoping I can have something for Press X podcast. Definitely got to have something that says, all right, guys, right? Like that has to be a thing. So I don't think merch is, you're saying merch is going to drop alongside the PS5. I'm hoping there might be some that drops alongside the PS5, but I'm trying to get it going around the time of Ghost of Tsushima. So, MBG, I'm not answering that. What did you think about Final Fantasy VII Remake? Again, I haven't played it, man. That's a game I don't know if I'm ever gonna get to playing it. There's so many games I don't have the time, man, and it sucks. Let me see. Yeah, all right, guys. Yeah, I'll go for a couple more minutes here since we seem to be having a pretty good conversation here. Rockstar's game feels more like a skin pasted over one basic template rather than something new in its own right. Western skin, Red Dead Redemption; urban skin, GTA; horror skin, Undead Nightmare. Yeah, but again, it's not so much about like the skin. It's in my opinion the coat of paint. It's just how high quality that paint is, I guess you could say. What is the second game that Guerrilla's working on? Is it the SOCOM reboot happening? Dude, I wish I could answer, man. I have no answers to that. I wish I could answer, but I don't know. Will you try doing another channel and channel becomes your gameplay walkthrough channel? I'm not sure what you're saying there, buddy. Unfortunately, I would like to answer that, but I'm not sure what you're trying to say. What games am I playing this day? Well, right now I'm just literally waiting for Ghost of Tsushima. I only have like a little bit of time to play each day, so lately I've just been playing like a couple games, like a round or two of PUBG with my friends at night. I know that that's not very exciting, but I'm just waiting for Ghost of Tsushima because I'm like that's on my radar 100%. Hey MVG, this is my first press Z. I'm assuming you meant to say press X, but awesome. Glad you could be here, buddy. It's actually going to be ending any minute now, unfortunately, but am I excited for the Avengers game? Yeah, I am. I don't think it looks that good, but I mean, it feels like it feels like it'll be okay. It looks okay. Like, it doesn't look terrible, but I don't know. It's a little bit cringy, man. Like, I don't know. I'm watching. I'm just like, some of it just makes me cringe. Oh, we have Cameron Youngs here with a very generous donation here. Thank you so much, buddy. You're saying make a subscribe star. F Patreon. They are hemorrhaging subscribers due to their policies/politics. Also tired of giving YouTube a cut when they play the same games. Reach out to some contacts. Going, keep up the great content. Well, thank you so much for that, Cameron. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about whether or not I should look into other means of people to allow people to support me directly here. I mean, the super chats help tremendously, and so do channel members. But yeah, there's no denying that YouTube does take a pretty significant cut of that stuff. And I know that there's like competitors, but you're saying subscribe star. I never heard of that, so I'll actually look into that. I'll actually bring it up right now so I don't forget about it because I may end up forgetting about it. But thank you so much for that generous donation, Cameron. I appreciate your support, man. Let me check. Subscribe star. So yeah, I'll look into that a little bit later. But I do appreciate any of the support that you guys show me here on the channel. I mean, there was that dude who dropped like a $500 donation during like the PS5 reveal stream, and I was just like, did this dude just try to donate like $50 or $5 and he accidentally just donated $500? That was insane. But yeah, YouTube takes a pretty significant cut, which is expected, you know? I mean, they're trying to make money off of their platform. Can't blame them for that. I said that you should do a new channel and that YouTube channels become the place where you upload gameplay for new games. Yeah, I get what you're saying, man. Like, you're basically saying I should just dedicate a separate channel just to gameplay. I'll have to see about that. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do in the future that... See, my big thing is I just don't know how much my wider audience is interested in watching me play games. It seems like right now, the majority of my audience is focused in on PlayStation 5 related content more than anything. And I've always expressed an interest in trying to grow the channel a little bit more into trying to talk more about games, not just PS5 exclusives or PlayStation exclusives, although in my opinion, they're the games I am certainly most interested in. But it's been kind of difficult because when I've tried to do that, it just seems like there's very little interest, and it's almost like trying to have to break into a new category. So what I'm gonna try to do is just like I did with The Last of Us. I played the first 3 hours. I streamed that. It did okay. It did okay. But I would like to see the channel get to a point where I can put up maybe some more gameplay type content that there seems to be more of an interest in. Because the thing is, as a content creator, what makes it difficult is you can think, oh, well, don't care about the views, don't care if it's a big hit or not. The thing that's difficult about that is like every time you try to do something new and it's not like a success, that's effort that's going into something that could be put into something else that could be a success. But it's not just about the matter, the quote unquote success aspect of it. It really is about like, does my audience like this? Because if only like 5% of the wider audience is interested, it's hard not to acknowledge, well, there's a much larger section of the audience that's not interested in it, that may be interested in something else, and then something that everybody can gravitate towards. If that makes sense. Just trying to give you a little bit of insight into how content creators' minds work. Enlergio, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. You're saying, what do you think is going on with PSVR? Do you think it will be announced? I think, yeah, PSVR 2 is 100% being developed, and I think it's going to be announced sometime in 2021 or 2022. So I think it is 100% for sure being worked on. I just don't know exactly when we're going to get it. Mario Shadow Self, you're saying, sure, many new IPs do not innovate, but that is okay if they implement those things in a good way. To me, Horizon Zero Dawn was awesome, and it did nothing that new. I have a feeling Ghost of Tsushima will be along the same lines. Yeah, I'd say that the most innovative aspect of Horizon Zero Dawn was easily like the story aspect, like the fact that it's like, okay, robot dinosaurs. You would think that's something that's done more frequently, but it's not, and people really like it. So, MBG, I'd watch your stream of Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I just don't know if, like, these are just the questions I have to ask myself. Like, if I were to stream myself playing the first 2 to 3 hours of Ghost of Tsushima, I think that would do okay, and there would certainly be enough people that would show up for that. But the question then becomes, would people want to watch me do just like multiple playthroughs, basically my entire experience of playing Ghost of Tsushima from start to finish? I don't know that there's going to be enough people interested in that for multiple reasons, mainly because I think a lot of you are going to be playing it at the same time and you're just going to figure, hey, I'll go play it, but also because I don't know if that's what my channel's really about. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it can be an occasional thing, but I'm not like a rad Brad. You know what I mean? That's not what my channel's known for. And a lot of times, when it comes to understanding YouTube and why people come to your channel and what they consume, why they're consuming your content, unfortunately, the way YouTube works, and I'm sure you guys notice this as well, you notice a content creator, they just try something different and it just flops. Because it's just like, that's not what they're known for. And it's almost like they're starting all over again if they're trying to completely deviate from the content they're known for. So, I don't know. It's just stuff I think about. I mean, obviously, I'm always thinking about ways to implement new things into the channel. Like, my channel was never known for a podcast. And then one day I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do a podcast. It's a popular thing. And people, as somebody who likes to also consume podcasts, I know how much people like it. And then one day I decided to do it. And it was a slow start. And it still has its ups and downs for sure. But overall, I feel like we built like a pretty solid weekly podcast here. And I see a lot of the same people show up and show the support, and we have a little community here. And it's like, yeah, it works out really well, and who's to say that we can't do more stuff like this in the future, where maybe we can have a gameplay series in the future, because the truth is I do daily content and it's difficult. It's difficult to find relevant PlayStation or even just general gaming related news that I, think people are going to be interested in every single day. It's really difficult. So, we'll see. MBG, still hyped for Elden Ring? 100% I am still hyped for Elden Ring. Can't wait to see that game. I'm shocked we haven't seen it. Maybe we'll see it at Xbox's July event. And then we're going to find out it's actually an Xbox exclusive now. And I'm going to rage. Mark it down. It's going to happen. All right. Do we really need a new Uncharted? It's the towing line for becoming Sony's Halo, which is, it means it's primarily going to sell nostalgia. I don't know. It depends on what direction they decide to go with it. MBG, what would your pitch for BioShock 4 be? I have no idea, man. One PS5 every 30 seconds is only about 2,880 per day, which means only 400K between now and November 2nd. I don't think that's correct, though. I don't think that's gonna. I mean, I don't know. That could be. Sony is probably gonna have. I mean, they're probably gonna have multiple factories that can develop, that can put out PS5s every 30 seconds, not just one. So I'm sure they're gonna look. The PS5 is gonna sell 1 million units day one at launch. It's gonna sell 1 million units. There's gonna be more than 1 million at launch. I think the question is, will they be able to have enough for the demand that comes after that? You know, because once they sell through their initial launch supply, then the question becomes, how quickly can we continue to get this out? Can we meet the demand? Can the supply meet the demand? I hope it can, man. Dude, look, I'm going to let you guys know right now, and this is where I'm going to end this. If the day comes where the PS5 launches and somehow I find myself without one, that's going to be a sad day. It's going to be a really, really sad day. Okay? I need a PS5 day one. My channel needs a PS5 day one. It's completely unacceptable if it doesn't get it. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 22 of Press X Podcast. It seems like half of this podcast was basically a Q&A with the chat, which I'm totally cool with. I always enjoy it. You guys keep it very entertaining and make it very easy for me to continue to talk. And I want to apologize if a lot of the topics I came up with seemed a little bit redundant. If I'm being completely honest with you, I was kind of pressed for time to be able to get this podcast properly prepped. So I do want to apologize if you notice maybe it was a little bit redundant. I'm hoping that going into this week, we get some good news, and obviously look forward to the content that's coming out over the next 6 days. And we will be back here again this time next Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern. We're hopefully going to have a lot of new stuff to talk about. So before you guys head out, we still have over 400 people here hanging out. If you could hit that like button. We did reach over 500 likes, which is awesome. Let's see if we can get that up to 600. And anybody who may be listening to this afterwards, be sure to hit that like button to help it out. And yeah, I appreciate you guys showing up and hanging out. Appreciate all of my members, by the way. Shout out to all my channel members. And shout out to everybody who donated a super chat. It really does mean a lot. I do appreciate that. Appreciate your support. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 22. And as I usually end these things, I will tell you guys to take care and go watch some of the videos that I put out this week if you haven't seen them. But yeah, take care, guys.